Lingdong, I believe, that's waiting now.
Yes.
And then that is Wang Haoze, and the first was Cai Xuzhe, the commander. So we have just under 3 hours to go until their launch, and this is their preparation stage where they'll be setting off, meeting all the audience there to send them off, wishing them good luck.
Yeah. Some of their family members will attend this ceremony.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief, we are following the order to carry out Shenzhou-19 manned space flight mission. Now we are ready to go. Please indicate. Member of PLA Astronaut Corps, Taikonaut Cai Xuzhe, Taikonaut Song Lingdong, Taikonaut Wang Haoze. Proceed. Yes. Salute.
So that is a fairly solemn moment, I would say, there for the 3 astronauts. I mean, this ceremony will take quite a while. What sort of preparation would they have had to make, leading up to this?
That's the point. Honestly speaking, this is a traditional to have this ceremony, the set-off. But just before that, the astronauts will have a very good rest, several hours of very high quality sleep, and then the medics will, the support will check their physical conditions and all kinds of parameters, and then help them to wear the IVA spacesuits. So this is a very good preparation for them.
So they would be, for the preparation stage, I mean, I assume that these astronauts would be in a fairly confined, in a a safe place, right? They wouldn't, or would they be allowed to be at home
sometimes
in society?
Similar, like yesterday during the conference with the media, there still we have the glass isolated the astronauts with the media. So this is a necessary step to avoid any infection because they are conducting their mission soon. So any kind of infection will be something wrong for the mission itself. Okay. So this is very necessary.
But they're sleeping just behind the building, behind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just the hotel.
How long would they be on site on the site for before the launch?
Normally, launching campaign can last a week or 10 days, and they have to go to the site to prepare. But before that, they have to do training at the astronaut training center in Beijing.
Before this formal set-off ceremony, their most important task is the wet dress rehearsal. During the wet dress rehearsal, they also wear this real IVA spacesuit. Yes, the wet dress rehearsal. So they will wearing this real spacesuit
to get used to operating in the spacesuit.
All these are similar, and go to the launch pad and go inside the spacecraft and do all kinds of examination, and also simulate with some measure to conduct the numerical simulation of the launch itself.
I mean, watching them walking there, they do look a little stiff in those spacesuits. I mean, I don't know if you've got to get a close-up personal look at this, but how would it feel for somebody wearing this? Very heavy? Would it be very difficult to move around in?
The IVA spacesuit is not so thick like the EVA spacesuit. So although it's a little bit heavier than our ordinary suit, but still much lighter than the EVA spacesuit. So of course they need some to some kind of they do have some burden, but not very serious.
Right.
It's not a very serious problem.
It does look pretty bulky though.
Yeah.
Which might restrict their movement.
Can be clumsy a little bit, but you're not moving too much because you're sitting in a fixed position that is most fit for the gravity.
You may know that this IVA suit is to ensure their safety when their cabin is depressurized. So it provides an additional protection to keep them in a very high pressured atmosphere. So this is very important. They do have the tragedy happened before during history. During the Soyuz 11 mission, because the 3 cosmonauts only wear ordinary suit, not the IVA space suit. So when the cabin was depressurized due to the malfunction of a valve, so the 3 cosmonauts lost their life very, very painfully. So with this lesson, so there is no exception during the launch and during the re-entry. All astronauts and cosmonauts will wear their spacesuits.
I think it's safe to say that for an operation like this, every single detail is important, isn't it? There's just nothing that goes unmissed, or is nothing that's there for just redundancy.
But I have raised the example. Even the valve, the malfunction of a valve can cause the loss of the whole lives of the 3 astronauts, or cosmonauts.
So right now we're looking at images from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in northwestern China, and the Shenzhou-19 crew of 3 are heading to the launch pad, but there'll be a launch ceremony, a sending off ceremony for them.
Yeah, I've been there 5 years before.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So you know what we're looking at right now, right, Professor Yang, this structure?
Yeah, I saw that.
This is the...
but you know that today it's much colder than Beijing because the altitude is about 1,000 meters high.
Right.
So although it's in almost the same latitude, about 40 degrees like Beijing, but it's a little bit colder than
Yes,
Beijing.
as our reporter was saying.
The bridge itself has a nickname.
That's the Space Memorial Tower, right? That's quite the landmark.
Like
what's the nickname of it?
Yeah.
It's a stretching tower or something.
Stretching tower.
It's like attendants stretch one ball in the middle, so it's like
that doesn't sound comfortable. But it has a very good symbolism, meaning, right? So this tower is constructed to resemble the Chinese character zhong, which means multitude or people, and it's interestingly for anyone who doesn't speak Chinese here, but it's the character 3 Chinese characters for people, for humans, stacked up on each other.
You know that when I come
Which
to
is
the
very much the achievement. Something like this, an achievement like this can only be done by the work of everybody, right? Every individual together.
Exactly.
Well, we heard that the convoys is also changed because the vehicle to the for the astronaut has been changed to a Chinese model.
Oh.
It's called the red flag or the Hongqi.
Yeah.
You're
it's
familiar with the
van.
motorbikes.
Yeah, the van. The motorbikes, of course, is Chinese, and we have the convoys traveling about less than 10 kilometers from the hotel to the launch pad. So that is more or less a safe distance for the inhabitants and the launching campaign itself, because there is also it's, the rocket can be quite volatile, and they have also fueling process which is also highly toxic. We're using UDMH and nitrogen tetroxide for this rocket, so it's so to keep it safe distance. So the convoy will travel about 10 minutes to the launch pad, and then they will send the astronauts to the escalator to board the rocket.
What sort of distance are we talking about then? 10 minutes, but
That's about 10 kilometers.
10 kilometers.
Yeah, about 10 kilometers.
That is
From the
a long
hotel
distance.
after the bridge, and then go to the launch pad.
And then after that, very soon after they get to the launch pad, they'll be going into the spaceship.
Yeah, they will then came out of the vehicle, and then there will be final greetings by the officials, and then they will send the 3 astronauts to the launch pad, and they will board in a lift that goes to the top of the rocket, and then they will be sliding in, because there's a procedures of the 3 astronauts in order who is going to go first. Yeah, there 2 sides. Person will go first, and then the last one will be the captain.
Okay.
And then we will see that later on. So this is a convoy going to the launch pad with motorcade.
So the public, the audience that we saw just now, the public would have been just at the Memorial Square, but nobody would be allowed to get too close to the launch pad, right? At that point, it would only be the specialists, the staff.
It's an isolated area. Usually, the common people, what you mentioned, is not allowed to be closer. Also, it's dangerous, as Mr. Xian has already mentioned. For the Long March 2F rocket, at this moment, is already full of propellant. The propellant has the fuel. The fuel is called symmetrical dimethyl hydrazine, or UDMH. UDMH is highly toxic, and also the oxidizer used by this launch vehicle is called nitrogen tetroxide, or NTO. You know that when NTO meet water, it can become nitric acid. Really corrosive, very dangerous for common people. So usually the fueling procedure is very, very careful. But it also has its advantages, because that this is because it's a hypergolic propulsion system. They can be stored in room temperature, very convenient for usage. So this is also the reason sometimes this kind of the combination between the UDMH and the NTO are still in use. So that's the reason. But also that for our future, our next generation manned spacecraft will be launched by the Changzheng Long March 10. The Long March 10 completely use a cryogenic propulsion system, which is completely environmental friendly. They only use liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, and also kerosene. So these are non-toxic and also not corrosive. So it's environmental friendly. But it can only be launched in the Hainan or Wenchang spacecraft launch site.
Is there a reason why they haven't switched to that fuel already for any of these? Is it just based on the location of where
No, it's based on the technology of the rocket itself. It's from Long March 4 before, from Long March 1, 2, 3, 4. These are using traditional fuels. Long March 5, Long March 5 beyond, kerosene, oxygen, hydrogen.
Why is it? Sorry, Karen.
So that can be more environmental friendly and also fuel efficient. Once in outer space, hydrogen and oxygen can provide more boost, and what we call the ratio is much higher for propulsions. So that is a new technology. But these manned mission using Long March 2F is based on the reliability of the rocket, because the number of times that have flown, and so it's very reliable, so human rated, and so we need to have safety as a priority. So we're using that as of this moment for the manned mission. So that has been more than a decade already. So that also provided safety to the astronaut ourselves. So this is the reason they're still using it, and the fueling system are different. Yang Guang mentioned about the Hainan launch site.
Yeah.
They don't have UDMH nitrogen tetroxide fueling system because new rockets.
Environmental concerns?
Yes, for environmental concerns, and also the launch site is built for the new generation, not for the old one. So the old one are still functioning in the 3 traditional launch sites.
So you wouldn't be able to use the different rockets at a different launch site. It has to be specific to that particular design.
This has not only have the influence to the rockets, but also have the influence to the satellites or other spacecraft. Today usually our spacecraft use 2 kinds of propulsion systems. Is one called the bi-propulsion system, which use also the fuel and oxidizer, and also we have some satellites use a monopropulsion system. It's much simpler, only use one fuel. So for these 2 kinds of propulsion system, they need the different support system on the ground. So for certain facility on the ground, only maybe they can support certain kinds of spacecraft. So this is also different. So for a different launch site, also another consideration is the diameter of the rocket.
Right.
For our inland in our mainland, because of the limit of the transportation system, especially the railway, usually the diameter of the fuselage of a rocket cannot bigger than 3.8 meters. The standard of our old generation, like Yan-Song has mentioned, the Long March 2 to Long March 4 rocket, the standard diameter of this is 3.35 meters. So this adaptable to the railway tunnel system. But today, some private company in China has already have the measure to transport their fuselage of the rocket, maybe not from the railway, just on the road, and it can be a little bit bigger, maybe it's 3.8 meters. So this can make it bigger, even inland, not on the seashore, but can launch a bigger rocket. But of course, the reason they build the Wenchang spacecraft launch site is because it's just on the seashore near the Qinglan airport, Qinglan seaport. So we have no difficulty to ship any sized fuselage of a rocket to there. That is the reason all the 5 meter diameter rockets were built in Tianjin and shipped to Qinglan seaport to launch in Wenchang spacecraft launch site.
Well, let's take a closer look now at the carrier rocket, the Long March 2F, which is taking the Shenzhou-19 crew to space, and it has been 25 years since the model's first flight, and our reporter Sun Ye gives us a closer look.
For the Shenzhou-19 mission launch, the final leg of the journey for its spacecraft and carrier rocket combination starts from here at the iconic assembly tower here at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. The transport to the launch pad process has the rocket and spacecraft combination moving upright all along. In China, this way of transporting upright or vertical has started with the Long March 2F rocket.
The 3 vertical mode refers to vertical assembly, vertical transport, and vertical launch. The Long March 2F rocket is China's first 3 vertical mode rocket. Subsequent rockets such as the Long March 5 and Long March 7, which are currently in service, as well as the future next generation manned rocket, all use this 3 vertical mode.
Ever since the rollout process, the Long March 2F rocket responsible for the Shenzhou-19 mission has stood tall and straight. Its uprightness gets further fine-tuned after propellant loading.
能看见的那个4个绿色的，跟那个柱子一样的东西。 You can see 4 green column-like support arms. Through these, the rocket's verticality can be precisely controlled. Generally, it is adjusted to within 1 minute, that is, within the range of 1/60th of a degree.
基本上现在每次都得调整到1分以内吧。
25 years ago, in 1999, it was a Long March 2F rocket that sent China's first experimental spaceship, the Shenzhou-19, into space. That was the rocket's first flight. As China's only manned carrier rocket in use at the moment, it has an all-success track record, and is still improving. 孙烨 CGTN 酒泉 Gansu Province.
So we've watched a lot of astronauts returning to Earth, but I think actually this might be my first official launch viewing, right? Professor, you actually correct me if I'm wrong, because you have a good record
we
of
three
this.
are experienced, but that's the difference between the live coverage of the returning to the Earth and the launch of a Shenzhou spacecraft. That the launch of the Shenzhou spacecraft, also the live coverage is much longer than the launch of the Tianzhou spacecraft. The reason is because of the crew. They have the set-off ceremony, and they need to go to the launch site, and they, as Yan Song has mentioned, they need to go up with the lift to the top, and then they need to conduct all kinds of checking, examination by the medics and other engineering goals who are in charge of the spacesuit to monitoring their medical parameters, and then help them to go inside the spacecraft. So they need a lot of time, and after they go inside, they also
we're seeing the spacecraft now, right? The launch tower.
So because they need all kinds of checking, so usually from the set-off ceremony to the launch, you need at least 2 or 3 hours.
A very elaborate process.
Exactly. So that's the reason why the live coverage of the launch of a Shenzhou crewed spacecraft is so long.
And because we talk, I've spoken to you both so much about why they choose certain times and certain days for the return of spacecraft, but obviously the same consideration would go into the launch as well, right?
Exactly. So this is a reason because of the orbital dynamics. You know that for any spacecraft, if they want to go back to the Earth, to the right side, the basic requirement is that we must waiting for the moment when the landing site rotating along with the Earth and rotated to the same orbital plane of the spacecraft. So only at this moment the spacecraft can deorbit it from its original trajectory and then go back to the Earth. So this is a basic requirement. So as you are correct. On the other hand, for the launch, it's a similar principle. You know that to chasing the Tiangong space station and dock with it together, the basic requirement for this is that we launch from a launch site, and the launch site is rotating together with the Earth. So we must waiting for the right moment when the launch site is rotating with the Earth and crossing through the orbital plane of our Tiangong space station. So this is a basic requirement, and without this, your two spacecraft will in different orbital planes. Usually, the energy or the propulsion system on board Shenzhou spaceship do not have the capability to correct this difference on the angles between the orbital planes. So that is why reason we adopted so-called the zero launch window. So the accuracy of the liftoff time is better than 1 second. And
so
also,
what's the window of error here then?
Zero launch window.
Nothing. It has to be precisely at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So, but with the development of our technology, today we can conduct the narrow launch window, which means that because the capability of our launch vehicle is bigger than we needed. So with this margin, we can, with a slight change on the launch window, so do not require it to be zero, but in a very short duration. So with this, we can greatly expanding the reliability of the whole mission, because we still have the chance to change the launch moment. So also with the development of our
because the astronauts getting off now.
Yes, they've already get off the ground vehicle. And also, as Yan Song mentioned, they're waving their hands to the final, I believe many of their leaders from all departments.
Final salutes.
Another goodbye.
Yeah.
And how, obviously, weather is also very important. We want a clear sky day, no rain.
Wish you a
wind conditions.
See you in Beijing. And also back to the China's CSS. And also we born in 1990s, also will go to the CSS.
So now they have proceeded to the lift.
And the lift going up, how many meters is this to the top of the space?
Roughly 52 meters, 50 meters. Yeah.
And they can make that ascent in just less than a minute, a few minutes?
Yeah, I think it's a slow lift.
You may notice that the service tower have many rotational platforms. So this has
open, right?
still at this moment it form a closed envelope for the whole vehicle. So this can provide a very convenient condition. So they have air conditioners inside, provide a very convenient condition for the launch vehicle itself. But after several minutes, there will be the first. As speaking, there are 4 rotational platforms.
And they will open one.
They will open one by one. But the sequence is very interesting.
From the bottom?
So the top one will be opened first, and then will be now the second one. But the bottom one, because you know that the difference between a manned spaceflight and our Euro common missions is that for manned missions we have an emergency escape system. When the astronaut has already entered the Shenzhou spacecraft, in a certain moment we must ignite or activate the emergency escape system. If anything wrong happened to the rocket, this system will help the astronauts to go away from the dangerous resources and safely land it.
That's why the top platform has to
Exactly.
open first.
So
they're out of the lift already. That's fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Faster than I thought.
And then supporting crews are waiting there to get them prepared. They're going to be sitting down, and then they will be boarding the rocket sequentially.
What sort of equipment would the crew, the support staff be carrying? I see them with a lot of boxes. Some medical equipment there? Or?
Yes. What you mentioned, the medical crew belongs to what we call the astronaut system. The astronaut system is not only in charge of the training of the astronaut, but also in charge of the design and manufacturing of the spacesuits, including the IVA spacesuits and the EVA spacesuits. And also, as you mentioned, they have doctors to monitoring the health condition of all astronauts.
And they will be doing a final check as well before they lift off, right?
Yeah, they basically bring all the tools, and they have 2 categories of supporting crews. One is for the astronaut themselves. One is for the rocket itself, because the rocket is done by the engineers. They know how to open and unscrew and then so fix them and unlock the rocket before it's launched. The life support system for the crew will check their conditions, parameters before they get in, and also connecting all the plugs, make sure that data are collected and sent back. Yeah. So I think from this moment they're sitting down and they're waiting for the support team to check them in.
So what they're facing right now, is that the spaceship
facing the payload fairing of the launch vehicle, and you may notice that there is a square hole on the payload fairing, and you know that just on the inside is a hatch, is a side hatch of the orbital module. So all the 3 crew members will go inside the spacecraft with this side hatch of the orbital module, and then they will go down from the orbital module to the re-entry capsule. So they will sit inside. There are 3 seats there. They will sit in the re-entry capsule. You can see the monitors.
Right?
Yeah.
So the
you
top
can see
right,
the monitors of all the conditions. You can see that on the top right is a camera mounted in the orbital module. And on the bottom right is a camera mounted in the re-entry capsule. You can see the 3 seats. Right. So the astronaut now is not inside, but there are still ground crew inside to prepare everything.
So how long will this process take then before they can actually get into the capsule?
Less than half an hour. Okay. And there's also a plank you can see, and they won't walk the plank, but they slide the plank.
Walk the plank. We don't want them to walk the plank.
There are many details we need to notice about. That when the astronaut go to the inside crossing the payload fairing, that even they need to pay some attention to their helmet, because maybe the helmet is fragile, and that sometimes the ground crew will help them to give some protection of their helmet, because they will go inside.
So from when we saw them arrive at the square to wave to the public to when they officially get into the rocket and launch, I mean, we're talking 3 hours or so, right?
Yes.
So no food, no drink for our astronauts during this time?
Fully drinked, I think.
So nothing during this time then until basically they reach the space station.
They can have drinks during the flight, and also it's going to be for the quick rendezvous. It's going to take at least 6 hours to
6.5 hours this time.
to get to the station. But also one thing needs to notice that we also mentioned about the Hainan launch site. They're going to launch a cargo in 2 weeks. Bring new fruits, new food to the station. Yes, because the old crew has been there for half a year. Everything they have could be quite
used up.
Not very tasty.
Right.
So they're gonna expect the cargoes to come and also the old crews to go away. So they're expecting a lot of things. 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks,
okay.
Actually speaking, the everyday dial of the certain astronauts is customized based on what he like. For instance, our commander of the Shenzhou-19 crew.
固定先检查太原，明白？备南，明白？青岛。
So this is checking on the ground
various
station.
locations, right?
We just heard the voice of the commander of the launch to check if every subsystem is okay.
And the various locations for these monitoring stations, they'll be monitoring the flight of the rocket.
The trajectory of the rocket, and also with these ground stations, we will also receiving the telemetry data, which will be representing the health condition of the rocket and the Shenzhou spaceship.
I mean, how many ground stations would normally be activated for a launch?
Well, that depends on different missions. You know that usually we have several ground stations along the trajectory of the launch. For instance, we have the Weinan station, we have the Qingdao station, and also we have the space tracking ships, maybe Yuanwang space tracking ships in the Pacific Ocean to prolong the whole area to increase the recovery rate. So with these ground stations and the space tracking ships, we can have a good data link with launch vehicle and also with Shenzhou spacecraft. The reason why we have a space tracking ship in the Pacific Ocean, you know that when the Long March 2F accomplish its task, begin to separate the Shenzhou spaceship, it's already already left the eastern coast of China. So it's already in the Yellow Sea or in the Pacific Ocean. So this time,
Hearing just another check there and confirmation that everything is in order.
to ensure that we get the right signal representing the normal separation between the launch vehicle and the Shenzhou spacecraft, and also the normal unfolding of the solar panels, we should have this kind of station in the Pacific Ocean. So that's the reason and the function of the space tracking ship.
Mr. Xu, you were just saying earlier about the weather conditions. I mean, so do we need perfect weather for a launch? Can any rain be tolerated, any wind?
Launching campaign has its own exclusive meteorologist. They predict the weather, and also this is part of the launch window that Professor Yang mentioned. Not only the trajectories, the rendezvous and dockings, the orbit, the inclinations, but also the weather itself. It has to provide a window. It could be in between storms or could be in between rains, but a precise weather forecast is very important for the launching, in particular for the manned mission, and also because the manned mission is not a single launch to the orbit mission, but also a rendezvous and docking mission. You need to have a precise launching window. That time really matters. But as we see today from the farewell and also from the tower itself, we can see it's a good calm weather. So it's perfect for this launching.
Can launch happen if there's any rain? Even if it's light, that's still okay.
We can still remember that during the launch of the Chang'e 6 sample return mission, there are very, very extremely heavy rain during the launch. So I'm also impressed by this. So that represents the robustness and the reliability of a launch vehicle is very high today.
What about wind? How much effect would wind have?
Wind can affect more than the rain because once you lift off, it's like an airplane. The wind can blow you off your course, so you have to constantly correcting. So the wind speed is crucial for launching.
What kind of wind speed would be considered inappropriate?
Actually speaking, there are different criteria for different launch vehicle.
Okay.
Of course, for bigger one, its tolerance may be higher because it's more strong and more. Even a very strong wind cannot influence its trajectory. But for a very small one, that's different. And also, you know that we mentioned about the different criteria. And for the rain, is also we have different criteria. Especially the influence of thunder or lightning is extremely important for us to consider. And also, you know, Mr. Xuan mentioned about the wind. Actually speaking, the wind condition on the high altitude is also very important. You know that in certain altitude there are certain kind of wind that can even influence the structure of a launch vehicle. So some damage do happen before during the launch because of this. Especially, you know, in 1990s during the launch of the American US-made satellites in China, some analysis because of the influence of the high altitude wind. So there is some damage of the payload fairing. So these kind of things do happen before, and we must consider this kind of influence.
It also just goes to show how accurate and precise our forecasters can be.
It's critical. It's important.
So how frequent, this regarding weather, let's say weather, just presume weather condition is all fine, but how frequently would a launch window come about? So we're about to see, I think the astronauts are about to enter the spaceship, and that is Wang Haoze there.
Yeah.
First to
03.
enter.
She's saluting, and then
She's number 3.
yeah.
And then
So she
goes first.
she's called is 03.
and she'll be followed by Song.
Song, yeah.
02.
Song Lingdong is 02.
No.
So she's this is what you were saying, sliding in. I wasn't sure what you meant by that.
So
but
as I
literally
mentioned,
sliding
we will
in.
first go. This is camera inside the orbital module. You can see
That's
that
the staff inside.
they will first go inside this orbital module with the help of the ground crew. Yep.
Oh, so there's a crew
you
inside
can
already.
see all kinds of cargoes in the shelves around the orbital module. So she already inside the orbital module and then go down to the re-entry capsule.
Are they sliding in just because of the sheer size of this hatch?
Actually speaking, it's
really wide?
very narrow.
So the only way, that's
Exactly.
basically the only way they can enter.
Yes, that's the only way. Yes.
So there is a hatch between the orbital module and the re-entry capsule.
And that's as far as the staff can go, right? The support staff. I mean, can they fit any more people into the orbital entry, the re-entry?
Re-entry
modules
cannot
that are seen?
cannot fit anyone
Just
in
the
there.
3
Yes.
astronauts.
分钟准备完毕。
So I believe that Miss Wang will sit in the seat closest to the camera.
Okay, let's see if you're right. Well, I'm pretty sure you are, since
Maybe
you've
they
seen
have
many of these.
Maybe more cameras.
They do. But usually we use the side one, which has a better view.
No.
I mean, this is a very long, drawn-out process. They're very careful with every step they tread in that.
One thing interesting is to know that the seat themselves are designed for the astronaut individually, so that they can, experience maximum G's, gravities. We know that the human body cannot tolerate more than 12 G's, but these are seats that designed in such a way that you sit in, you're fit very tightly, and you can tolerate more gravities.
So it's got to be very snug fitted to their body shapes. Do they consider weight as well? Is that a factor in the chair design, or is it just mostly the body shape?
Mostly body shape and mostly your height, your deep contours and everything.
Well, we can hear the voice from the launch site system. They are just conducting another numerical simulation of the launch.
3小时准备完毕。
So it takes a while for her to get comfortable there.
Yeah, it's a tight fit. Yeah.
20秒。
And also, we can hear a lot of radio announcement. These are exercise after exercise, to make sure that all functions all systems are go for the launch. not only, these are launching sequence, and also they have ground crews, ground stations to check their links.
Mr. Song Lingdong is now going into inside the cabin.
02 sliding in.
331秒，383毫秒。重量
Mr. Song Lingdong is the one during the re-entry. He will in charge of the cutting off the parachute. So that is the role of 02.
I mean, they will all have been assigned specific tasks during this whole launch process, right?
Because his seat is near the button to cut off the parachute when landed.
Is it always 02 who does the parachute? Always 02.
So
he has the handle.
So what price Yaping most? Because during the Shenzhou-19 mission, the capsule landed vertically. This is the reason, because she pressed the button in the most right moment. So
it won't pull off. Yeah.
Yes, in most cases it will be pulled off, as Jensen mentioned. But you know that if it can land vertically, the astronaut will feel very convenient.
But how hard is that to?
Very, very hard.
Orchestrate?
You seldom have the chance. In most cases, almost more than 90%, they will lie down because you don't have the right moment to push the button to cut off the.
So do you think for her, for Wang Yaping, that was by chance, coincidence, or was that calculated?
And lucky enough, we only have two examples: the Shenzhou-6 mission and the Shenzhou-13 mission. Only in these two missions, the capsule landed vertically.
Right. And there's the commander.
Finally, the commander will go inside and sit in the middle.
01, Cai Xuzhe. He's our veteran. He's our returning astronaut.
Please notice today that all the members from the second batch of Chinese astronauts has already have their chance to go to outer space, and among them, 6 of them, including this one, has already have their second mission, and 4 of them has already become commanders.
He was last up there. Cai Xuzhe was last up there in 2022, right? So I think it was.
So after him,
2 years before.
Yeah. And 2 years a break in between going up to space, is that a kind of a normal amount of time?
You can go a little bit faster, but it's physically challenging. You have to take a half a year to recover physically, because it's a long duration flight. It's not a week flight, but it's a half year flight. So you lose a lot of bone mass. Your cardiovascular system changes. Your muscle loses. So you have to regain all of those. And you have to have good physical exercise and nutrition, and then you get recovered and trained for the new mission. You have to do a lot of simulations, train with your new crew, and also, so that takes time.
So this is a pretty standard amount of time then in between missions. Yeah, 6 months to recoup, and then another lead up to this. He was up, Cai Xuzhe was last up there for 6 months as well, I believe, right, with the 14. The 14 was the first mission crewed mission to be in the space station for that long period of time.
Not the first one. In Shenzhou-18 mission, Mr. Ye Guangfu will the first one in China who have accumulated time in space for 1 year. Mr. Ye Guangfu, when he come back to the Earth 5 days later, he will be the first one that conducted the accumulated time in outer space will be about 1 year. Mr. Ye Guangfu will be the first one. Because in Shenzhou-13 mission, he also stayed in outer space for half a year. So this time, another half a year.
And then Cai Xuzhe will be then, I guess, the second astronaut to stay for accumulated
to have this
1 year.
It's a standard half-year mission for every crew, so to maintain the permanent presence of human being in the station itself. So this was designed in such a way, and also a supporting system like the cargo ships, life support system, oxygens, waters, food, and all are designed in such a way so that the crew can be sustained for half a year.
Initially, the crew was up there, I think, I can't remember which Shenzhou it was, but for just 3 months, right? And then that expanded to the 6 months.
And there were also queries about emergency cases. For example, we know the International Space Station has 2 astronauts that cannot come back with their original capsule.
Boeing style liner.
Boeing designed, and also the question was asked, how about the Chinese station? And we know that there is this is Shenzhou-18 mission. We have 19 missions already in the vicinity. Once this is launched, the 19 will be on the pad for any emergency cases.
This is 19.
So 19,
No,
sorry,
yeah, this is 19,
20.
so we have 20
So
waiting.
20 is going to be standby for any cases that anything happens to the previous crew, and we can send the 20 for emergency.
Now, Mr. Cai Xuzhe, the commander, is go down from the orbital module to the re-entry capsule with the help of the ground crew. You can see that.
And again, another very tight fit. I mean, this is really, there's just no space for maneuver.
But today it's already from a very standard routine, so the ground crew is also well trained
Very
and experienced,
experienced,
so they do know what they should do to help the astronauts to go more smoothly. And also, you know that usually the ground crew have two categories. One from the medical team, usually belongs to the astronaut system, who are in charge of the monitoring the health condition of the astronaut. And also the other team belongs to the spacecraft system, because you know that all these modules belongs to the Shenzhou spaceship. So they also need to ensure that everything is okay, including, you know, that finally they need to close the hatch, close the front hatch of the re-entry capsule, and then close the side hatch of the orbital module, and then close the panel of the payload fairing. So with these measures, so at this moment, if they have something wrong, they can only escape based on the emergency escape system. So that is the reason why the top platform should be opened first.
What are they passing around right now? That little clipboard.
Well, you know, you may notice that they are still. You can see that Miss Wang is checking some menus.
A lot of fiddling around there.
Some handbooks. So you know that I believe that inside this handbook not only have the instructions of how to do in normal condition, but also have all kinds of instructions on in abnormal case what you should do.
Emergency case.
Yeah. So they have to be familiar with all these kinds of tasks, and also do all kinds of trainings before the launch.
There's a checklist for them to go through.
Exactly.
And that's what they're looking at right now, isn't it? Well, let's check in with our reporters. So we do have the three taikonauts, Cai Xuzhe, Lingdong and Wang Haoze, now in the capsule and making themselves comfortable there. And the spacecraft will be soon taking off from the Jiuquan satellite launch pad and bound for the Tiangong space station. So Sun Ye is at the satellite launch center and Zheng Yibing is at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. So let's check in with both of them. Hi, Sun Ye. So, what do you have for us? How are the preparations there? What's the mood like?
Hi there, Jiayang. So we are 1.5 kilometers away from the launch pad, and you can see the rocket is still wrapped in those blue rotation platforms. It's wrapped there. It's protected from the chill and from everything else. But really, the temperature isn't that big a problem, considering all the preparations they've been doing. When that rocket reveals itself in time, you'll find there are heating pads taped around the rocket. That's for an extra layer of warmth, and when it's launched, those heating packs will come off. We've just talked to experts in the rocket system, in the launch center system, and in the spaceship system, and all these experts say everything is proceeding according to plan, smoothly, and as they've always said and usually say, everything is normal and it's in good condition. But we do want to share a little bit of things that happened earlier. Now that the taikonauts are in the spaceship and they have traveled from that square of dream come true in that seeing off ceremony to the launch pad, earlier we also traveled in a minibus on that whole path. So I think you have seen the aerial shots, how this whole place is lit up and decked up, but we have seen what the taikonauts are seeing at their eye level, on the street level. One thing that's quite interesting are the road signs. Here, the road signs, the street names, they are quite meaningful and special. There is the road of technology. There is the street of aerospace. There is the street of peace. And on on those street names, there's even more messages taped on there, including going to space is romantic, space exploration is limitless, let's go explore space together. So these are probably the last messages, the last words the taikonauts see before they enter into that launch tower and into the spaceship. And all of these words, like what they've been seeing throughout the day, are the best wishes from people here. Jiayang.
Oh, that's definitely nice messages to see before they embark on this really important mission. Thank you so much, Sun Ye at the Jiuquan Launch Center. And now let's head over to Zheng Yibing, who's at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center, and that is the place which will oversee the launch. Yibing, what are you seeing there? What's happening?
Well, yes, Zhou Yang. The Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center now, the Shenzhou-19 crewed flight mission is in the launch sequence. But here in Beijing, the Chinese capital, the Aerospace Control Center, from the big screen behind me, we can see the multiple angles of the Shenzhou-19 crew, their status in the spacecraft and the Shenzhou-19. Well, this is a center which is what you call the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. Well, last time when we were here was for the Chang'e 6 lunar mission, and this time is for the Shenzhou-19 crewed flight mission. And this center is for the whole mission of the Shenzhou-19 mission, and it coordinates all systems from the launching center to the landing site, and also the measurement and control stations across the world, and as well as the China's Tiangong space station. So from here, we can not only hear the brief and short communication between the Beijing Aerospace Control Center and other centers and other stations, we can hear also the typical Beijing copy between them. So that is really impressive. And on the big screen behind me, we can see the status of the Shenzhou-19 crew. They have entered the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft while the three taikonauts are reading the handbook, the menu for this whole mission, and they look very firm and determined for the upcoming mission and for the ignition and for the handover into space to meet with the Shenzhou-18 crew. And in the coming hours, we could also see the status of the Shenzhou-18 crew. The crew has been in space for half a year. They are making the final preparation to welcome the newcomers to the Tiangong space station, and they will hand over in the Tiangong space station for a couple of days. So that is a really impressive moments to come. So back to you, Jiayang.
Yes, we're looking at the very same images as well. Thank you so much, Yi Bing at the Beijing Space Control Center.
We may notice that all these three crew members are checking their handbooks, so they are very, but they are very confident. But still, they are very careful to ensure that they are familiar with any step.
That's actually a really similar scene to seeing them come back to Earth as well, right? They've got that little checklist.
Yeah.
But what would be different then on the launch checklist and the return checklist?
I think the launch checklist would be a shorter one, because it's more of a routine. It's it's not controlled by the crew, but they have to just to provide the informations inside the capsule. But all the launching sequence is not part of the crew pressing the button, but it's someone on the ground in the control room press the firing of the rocket, and then there's it's less than 10 minutes you'll be out of atmosphere and out of the Earth.
So is this more of a reassurance thing?
I think they have gone through all the exercises many times, but they're quite serious, because this time is for real. So they have to go through the process very carefully. And also, as Professor Yang mentioned, there's what we call a full-time safety protection. Outside the capsule, the astronauts can slide down to a bunker, and there's like a rubber tube for astronauts to go sliding down from the lift. And also inside the capsule now, the what we call escape tower is activated. So in case
we're at the 2-hour countdown now. Sorry to interrupt you there.
It's T-minus 2 hours and counting.
Yeah.
2 hours to go till launch.
So in different countdown moments, we have the checking of the different critical systems, including the launch site systems, the rocket systems, the Shenzhou spacecraft system, the TT&C systems, and also our Tiangong space station systems. Everything should be go ahead.
So it's like a protocol they have already, exercised many times. Once you call 2 hours preparations, then there is an activation of number of actions, and including all the systems.
Look. The first platform is now opened. As I mentioned,
the very top platform.
The very top one.
And then it will be the very bottom
you
one,
can
and
see
then
that
the
the emergency escape tower, we can already have a direct eyesight with that.
We're hearing more system checks there.
That means the activation of the escape tower to ensure the safety of the astronauts.
Mr. Xu, I understand that you get to have a little break now, but we'll bring you back a little later in the program as we continue to watch the launch.
So when the emergency escape tower ignited, so there will be any obstacle because the first platform has already opened.
Right.
So this is also a safety measure.
Well, China has laid out its roadmap for space science development, and one of the key goals of the plan is to become a space industry leader by 2050. And other objectives include a manned lunar mission. Let's take a look.
China announced its first ever medium and long-term plans for space science development. A variety of key research areas have been listed and include exploring the origin and evolution of the universe, gravitational waves, the sun, the earth, the heliosphere for a panoramic view of sun-earth, the habitability of celestial bodies in the solar system and beyond, and search for extraterrestrial life, the laws of matter movement and life activities in space, and more.
规划提出了至2050年 我国空间科学发展的路线图。
The plan proposes a roadmap for China's space science development up until 2050. Between 2028 and 2035, operations on China's space station will continue and will implement missions such as a manned lunar exploration mission. Around 15 satellite missions will also be conducted. Between 2036 and 2050, we plan to conduct some 30 space science missions and become a global leader in certain areas.
China's manned space program has revealed that Chinese taikonauts will travel to the moon by 2030. These lunar expeditions are expected to involve cutting-edge science experiments.
Well, the Shenzhou-19 crew will be carrying out 86 space science research and technology experiments during their mission. A spokesperson of the China Manned Space Agency gave the details at a news conference.
载人航天工程自立项之初
Since the very beginning of the program, we have put a great importance on space science as a vital part of development strategy. Following the concept of building ships to build stations and build stations for utilization, we integrate the engineering and scientific objectives and promote them at the same time. Our program's space science and application missions are critical parts of the national strategy. We have actively participated in the making of the national medium and long-term plan, and will see it to be implemented. During the Shenzhou-19 flight, according to the plan section on biological and physical science in space, 86 space science and technology experiments will be carried out in the field of space life science, fundamental physics of microgravity, space material science, space medicine, new space technology, etc. For instance, structural analysis of protein crystals grow under microgravity conditions and non-equilibrium dynamics of soft matter. It's expected that a number of scientific achievements will be made in frontier research on fundamental theories, preparation of new materials, mechanisms of physiological effects of space radiation and weightlessness, submagnetic biological effects, and molecular mechanisms, etc. In addition, on the occasion of the second anniversary of CSS completion, we will publicly release the progress report on scientific research and application of China's space station to the society, introducing the representative results achieved since CSS entered the orbit. In the future, we will use the plan as a guide to further focus on key issues, strengthen the organic integration of scientific objectives and human spaceflight missions, and make greater contributions to the high-quality development of China's space science and space costs.
Now, we've been playing a bit of musical chairs. Professor Young and I were where we were, but we now have Wule here in the studio with us, our veteran space reporter. Wule, great to have you in here. Now, Wule, you've covered a lot of space missions and China's lunar program as well. Tell us a bit about your experience. How does this one compare?
Yeah, exactly. So this is my fourth time to cover the human space flight missions after the Shenzhou-11, Shenzhou-16, and Shenzhou-17. And this is my first time in the studio to share the experience of these valuable and memorable experiences. And I found that in recent years, for the human space flight missions, Global Space Society have been paying a lot of attention on these missions. They want to know more about these tachonauts and also the missions on board the China's Tiangong space station. So in recent years, whenever we go to these kind of international space meetings, conferences, and also the exhibitions, the global space experts want to understand the latest development of China's Tiangong space station, the experiments to be conducted on that, and also China's lunar and Mars explorations. So here, this time for the Shenzhou-19 crew, a lot of attention also being attached. So they will be following carefully about this spacewalks and also a kind of experiments. So early this month, I went to Milan for the International Astronautical Congress. A lot of people asking that the latest about the China's Tiangong space station, what about the telescope and other space experiments to be held in the Tiangong space station. So we can see that a lot of interest and also growing cooperation on this platform, the Tiangong space station, will be conducted.
Well, speaking of this particular mission and the research projects and experiments, can you tell us about some of those? I mean, we're seeing 86 experiments and tasks to do, right?
Absolutely. This morning, I also watched the whole press conference, and I noticed that there are over 86 experiments and tests, because we know that on board the Tiangong space station, inside there are kinds of experiments like space materials, space medicine, and also biospace technology, and also microgravity experiments. And also outside of this cabin, the tachonauts will have these spacewalks, and also they are going to install some kind of space debris protection devices, like, because you know the Tiangong space station is orbiting about 400 kilometers away from the Earth, and there are a lot of space debris. Right. And they are now, for the Shenzhou-18 crew, they have already installed some part of these devices, and Shenzhou-19 crew will continue to install this kind of space debris protection devices, and also they will conduct several times of spacewalks to continue to conduct the experiments outside of the cabin because of the microgravity environment, the radiation, and other. So there are a lot of experiments that to be put outside of the cabin. And also this time, I heard from my colleagues Sun Ye and Chen Yilin. They have talked to a lot of scientists and also engineers from the Chinese Academy of Sciences. They have brought many kinds of new experiments to the Tiangong space station, because we know every time each crew will conduct different types of experiments. And this time, one experiment that really impressed me most is that they even brought some space flight in the flies, fruit flies.
Living flies.
Yeah, little fruit flies to the Tiangong space station. They want to observe how they grow and how they mutate in that kind of microgravity environment.
Is that the first time they're bringing living animals into space?
No. The last time they even brought some fish.
Oh.
Yeah.
Zebrafish.
In the Tiangong space station. And we believe that in the next few years, more plants, more animals, more
mammals.
Yeah, will be brought to the Tiangong space station. Don't forget that Cai Xuzhe, when he was in his last mission, he even grew a lot of plants, vegetables, and
he ate it.
He ate it, and he said that it tastes very good. So we can expect that they will have more interesting kind of tests and experiments in the Tiangong space station.
I mean, they're certainly interesting for the scientific field of research and understanding, but Professor Yang, why do these experiments also matter to us here on Earth? How do they apply to our life?
Well, you know that I am a technician in space field, you know well about that, but for me, I always recognize it is my duty to be a bridge between the public and our professional field. You see, the manned space activity need a lot of money, need a very long period, and usually the investment is very huge, but we should be very aware that most of the benefit, most of the returns from this manned space program are indirective. Sometimes in most circumstances, you need a very long period for the transfer or transplanting of the technology derived from this kind of human space activities. So the public should be patient, and the public should understand this feature. There are many other examples. You know that from the Apollo program conducted in 1990s and 1970s, the United States benefit from it in all areas. And it's actually speaking, although the program is politics driven, but they do have sufficient return from this program. Today, the space capable nations, including with China, paid more about the efficiency. So we hope that we can do more things with limited budget, but still with the scientific research experiments conducted in outer space, sooner or later it can benefit our daily life. So, but it's a little bit complicated to describe the relationship between a certain experiment and a certain technology and a certain application in daily life. So for everyone, usually or in most cases, it's hard to explain.
Right.
But it's have very good examples. For instance, we always see that there are the diapers used for babysitters gathered from the urine collection device just today. I believe they must wear that. But for common people, it is a simplified version, right. or more cheaper. And also you can see that the non-stick frying pan is developed because we have new material. And the material, this kind of, as we have already mentioned, the studying on new material is one important field. In our Tiangong space station, we even have more than 2 racks dedicated to the material making. Sometimes we use the laser to heat the metals and to have some new alloys. And sometimes we use the higher microgravity level to conduct some kind of material test. So all these, sooner or later, it can benefit our daily life. But we do not know when it can be. We only be sure it can be.
So we're looking at images now of the launch tower, and the astronauts are sitting comfortably, snugly in their seats.
But you see on the video camera, you can see the white one is the top of the emergency escape tower. Right. So it's already to the open space. That means that when the emergency escape system is activated, it can save the lives of the astronauts when something dangerous happens. For instance, during history, they do not have some malfunction or explosion of the carrier rocket. But at this moment, I believe that Mr. Gitov from the former Soviet Union, his life was saved because of the emergency escape system activated. And just now, I believe that just inside the International Space Station, the commander of the new crew, Mr. Haig, Nick Haig, he has experienced an emergency escape during the Soyuz MS-10 mission because during the separation of the boosters with the core stage, there is a collision. And the malfunction detection system judged that it is dangerous. And then the escape system activated. So Mr. Nick Hague is the one just experienced these kind of things.
So I mean, these spaceships, they're constantly being updated with the latest technology, right? So what's different about this particular one compared to its predecessors, to both of you?
Well, that's we call this Long March 2F a human-rated launch vehicle, or the only human-rated launch vehicle now in China, which means that to concern about the reliability and the safety is much higher than other launch vehicles used currently in China. Because for human missions with crew inside, we must ensure its safety. Based on the original design, different from its predecessors, the Long March 2E, although the Long March 2F have a similar configuration with the Long March 2E, but it has a new malfunction detection system. So the reliability of the Long March 2F is much higher than Long March 2E. Originally, the flight reliability is about 0.97. Or 97%, it can ensure the safety. But still, that this is not safe enough for astronauts. 97% means that for every 100 launch, maybe in 3 times we put the astronauts in danger. So this is not safe enough. So that is the reason we add another emergency escape system. So that is a very remarkable feature of the Long March 2F because it's a very sharp tower. So with this emergency escape system, we can increase the safety of the astronauts from the 1.97 to 1.997, which means that with every 1,000 launch, we only have in 3 cases the lives of astronauts may be threatened. So this is already acceptable. But today, that with the launch of so many Shenzhou spaceships, the reliability, I don't know the exact figure, but the reliability and also the safety for the astronaut is also increased.
Yeah.
So today, with more and more practice, the Long March 2F and the combination with the Shenzhou spacecraft is already become a very, very experienced and very reliable crew transportation system for our Tiangong space station.
Don't forget, China is also developing the new generation manned rocket, the Long March 10, and also new rocket, new spacecraft for the manned lunar missions before 2030. So the scientists already developed that prototype, and that I think in the next few years they will conduct the tests and also the launch before around 2028, before it can be used to launch the tachinauts to on the moon.
So that will be the second human-rated launch vehicle of China. And it is based on the 5-meter diameter core stage. So it's much bigger than our Long March 2F because the core stage diameter is 3.35 meters. So with technology we get based on the Long March 5 series, we can have the experience to make the Long March 10 launch vehicle within 2 years. As Mr. Woolley has already mentioned, maybe the maiden flight will be conducted in 2027 or 2028.
All right, well, let's get back to this current spacecraft that's carrying the Shenzhou-19, and let's hear a little bit more about the system, and our reporter Chen Yingling spoke to a researcher.
The Shenzhou-19 is the 4th manned spacecraft for a mission to China's space station in its use and development stage. Its structure consists of 3 modules, similar to the previous Shenzhou spacecrafts.
The Shenzhou manned spacecraft is mainly composed of 3 sections, namely the orbital module, the re-entry module, and the propellant module. The orbital module is mainly the work and living area for the taikonauts after entering orbit, and is equipped with sensors for rendezvous and docking with the Tiangong space station. The re-entry model can be seen as a cockpit. The propellant module is equipped with solar panels and engines, mainly to provide power.
The main upgrade of the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft is its loading capacity, which allows room for more cargo and a more spacious environment for the taikonauts.
We have optimized the orbital module product and layout of the spacecraft. Our research and development team have conducted a lot of tests and experiments in order to fully verify its transport capability.
This year also marks a momentous occasion, the 25th anniversary of the maiden flight of China's Shenzhou spacecraft, the Shenzhou-1. From that historic moment to ambitious missions of today, generations of engineers have put their hearts and unwavering belief into this journey.
What we frequently say is that manned space flights are a matter of life and death. During the entire development process, we always kept this in mind. We display our rigorous, cautious, meticulous and practical work style to ensure that the entire work is foolproof.
The Shenzhou-19 spaceship has much lined up after taking off. The spaceship will dock with the China Space Station from the front port of the core module. The assembly already has the Shenzhou-18 spaceship attached. The Shenzhou-20 spacecraft is also standing by at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center for emergency rescue. Qingling CGTN from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
Now, at the recently concluded International Astronautical Congress in Milan, Wule spoke with Marco Antonio Chamon, the president of the Brazilian Space Agency, and he talked about the potential of future cooperation between the two countries.
President Marco Chamon, great to be with you here in Milan. What are some of the latest trends that you have seen and being impressed with during this event?
Very impressed here is the blossoming of the industry in the space, the private industry, the private business we have here. One thing that is very impressive is space stations. We have a lot of proposals of private space stations doing by many companies here. I saw many companies providing complete solutions for small satellite constellations. In fact, a real revolution in space.
China and Brazil have collaborated in the space sector for over 35 years, with 6 China-Brazil Earth resource satellites being launched. So what can we expect for the collaboration between these two countries in the future?
We have today 2 satellites in orbit operating, Sirius 4 and 4A, that we share in terms of data and control. But now we are moving forward for other technologies. One, radar is very useful too for land imaging, and meteorology that is very important to us in terms of monitoring and forecasting of natural disasters. We will discuss and we will act in terms of lunar or space exploration outside the orbit of Earth with China. So it's a really fantastic and very fruitful collaboration that we have between Brazil and China.
Brazil and China are both founding members of the BRICS bloc. These countries have signed on to cooperate on the remote sensing constellation program. How important is this program for future collaboration in the space sector among BRICS countries?
We need more and more collaboration, and I think BRICS and other multilateral mechanisms, BRICS in particular, is very important for that. Remote sensing agreement that we have signed among BRICS countries is a very important sign that we can and we do things together. But we have already implemented some projects inside this agreement, and very successful. Training and capacity building for the use of the data. I think that the future for BRICS and BRICS Plus is to expand our collaboration in remote sensing, including other technologies and capacity building.
So Wule, that was earlier this month for you in Milan, and Professor Yang, you were there as well. Talk to us about some of the highlights that you saw there. What stood out for you?
Oh, really? That was the largest space event every year. So this year was held in Milan. Next year will be held in Sydney, Australia. So this is the biggest gathering for space people.
Yeah.
Not only astronauts, but also scientists, experts, and engineers. Students come here to exchange their ideas, to talk about, discuss the latest collaborations. So one thing that really impressed me most was the growing interest in China's space development. because this time China showcased the first samples collected from the far side of the moon by the Chang'e 6 mission. And every day I can say that hundreds of thousands of people come to the China booth, space booth, and to see how it looks. And also many people inquire how can they borrow some or have some samples from these Chang'e 6 mission, because now China has already opened that to the whole world. The global scientists, space organizations can apply to borrow the samples from this very precious cargo from the Chang'e 5 and Chang'e 6 missions. And the other thing is that China also presented the latest development. It's a commercial space sector. Many rockets and also satellites and also other segment products in the space sector have been presented in the booth. And also I visited the NASA booth and also ESA booth and also India space booth. I can see that many countries around the world are now investing more in the space sector, because nowadays you can see that with a lot of attention on the lunar missions and also on Mars and other deep space exploration missions, a growing number of countries like Brazil, like India, and also other developing countries are investing more in the space sector. They want to take the advantage of space exploration to develop their own space sector. And China has a space station now orbiting there, and also China proposed to build an international lunar research station. Over 15 countries and regions have already signed in. So a lot of countries want to collaborate with China on these lunar and also deep space missions. So in the future, we can see more collaboration will be expected in this area. And also for the astronauts side, many countries want to send the astronauts to China space station. A lot of countries have already applied, and we are being told by the China Manned Space Agency, in the future, foreign astronauts will come to China for the training, and they will be sent to China Space Station. They will work alongside with Chinese astronauts, scientists, engineers together to operate and do the space experiments. And last but not least, and then I can feel that a growing number of commercial space applications have been provided in this exhibition. Many companies, private companies, they are offering a kind of commercial space application, or also private space station. A lot of private companies, they are offering a full set of private space station, and also space travel, space tourism, and also space application. So in the next few years, I can see that a lot of private companies will pull in this kind of private space station, private lunar missions, private, a lot of private companies have been investing more in the space sector. So these are most of that impressed me most. So every time, although this is my second time attending the IAC, I have already found many changes. So we're hoping that more Chinese scientists and more Chinese engineers and also journalists can take the opportunity to go to these places to, like Professor Yang said, we are the bridge to bridge this kind of gap between the scientists and the public.
Right. What kind of changes then? Is it changes from the first time that you attended? In what areas of space development?
Last year was held in Baku, in Azerbaijan. This year in Italy. So I can see that this year more European countries go to Italy and go to Milan. But we can feel that a growing number of Asian countries, developing countries like the many African countries also go there. I talked to the CEO of South African National Space Agency. They also showcased they have brought over, I can remember that 15 private companies from South African. They are showcasing their latest development about the satellites and like the micro satellites, and also they are hoping to be part of the whole space sector. So I can feel that a growing number of developing countries, they are hoping to take part in this kind of whole sector, because you know that for the space sector, they have rockets, they have satellites, they have facilities, training, a lot of things that you can be part of this whole ecosystem. So I can feel that not only in the past, only the US, Russia, and also ESA, a lot of developed countries have been in this game or this sector, but now a lot of developing countries are joining in. So this is one of my big impressions.
Is that a trend that you saw as well over there, Professor Yang?
Well, you know that my duty is the chair of the Space Transportation Committee, so I should monitor the 9 sessions we are in charge of. So every day on my way to the room conducting the session, I can very frankly see Mr. Wu Lei has an interview with an important person. Some of them are my friends. Also, the IAC, or the International Astronautical Congress, is the right place for communication between different sectors. So for this, usually because it's the Olympic game in space field, so we have the guys from the governments, from the universities, from the industry, from the private firms, from the other organizations or NGOs. Oh, we just heard a voice from the ground commander. Yeah.
Another systems check-in, making sure that everything is in order.
So let's continue our topic. You know that during IAC, Mr. Wu Lei, I believe because as he mentioned, he attended the Congress in Azerbaijan last year in Baku. So what impressed me most that because although you know that Azerbaijan is a very small country, but it's very enthusiastic on hosting the IAC, and you can even get your badge in the airport, very convenient. And also you can even see the logos of IAC on taxis. So that is what impressed me more. Of course, this time there are more delegates, more than 11 or 12,000 delegates.
A record number.
Break another record. Also, the papers delivered to my committee also make a record. So we have a very tough task to select the right papers. Very hard choice because many of them are very, very good papers, but still very hard for us to choose. But still, I should also emphasize that the IAF community should plays a leading role in the communication and better understanding of different organizations. We have a concept of the 3G, or gender, geography, generation. So today we see the launch of the Shenzhou-19 crew, with different gender, with different generation.
Right.
And of course, with the view of China with different geography, because they come from different provinces in China. So the 3G is a basic concept of the IF community to have more concern on diversity.
Right.
So this is a right consideration to improve the better understanding of the communication between different areas of the world and to benefit the whole world.
And Wu Lei, with more emerging countries, more developing countries joining in the space game, they are going to be looking for more collaboration, possibly with China as well. So what potential areas do you see then for this sort of cooperation, collaboration in space?
Yeah, during this IAC, I think a lot of countries showing interest in the International Lunar Research Station that I mentioned, because over the next few decades, I think that will be a mega project on the moon, on the south of the moon, and they are going to build, a permanent base. The scientists, the astronauts, engineers will be working there, and to study the lunar resource, and also take that opportunity to continue the deep space exploration. And during this IAC, the Chinese city of Hefei has already applied to host another IAC in 2028. So the deep space exploration lab, the headquarters is in Hefei city.
Exactly.
So the deep space exploration lab is going to host, planning to host the IAC 2028. So we are hoping that more scientists, engineers can take this opportunity to know the latest development about the International Lunar Research Station. So during this time, this week in Milan, I met a lot of scientists and also engineers. They want to know what is the latest about this International Lunar Research Station, who will be joining this, and what kind of experiments can be conducted aboard this lunar research station. And China has been quite open because the U.S. is now taking the Artemis mission back to the moon, but also a lot of other countries are also trying to conduct some kind of private lunar missions, and China is no exception because at this period of time, lunar missions, and also don't forget the Mars mission. China will conduct the Tianwen-2 and Tianwen-3 Mars mission in the next few years. For the Tianwen-3, China aims to have the Mars sample return mission before around 2028. No country has ever done that before, and Chinese scientists have already said they are quite open. They welcome more international collaboration on the Mars missions, and also the Tianwen-2 mission is quite trying to hit an asteroid and to try to change its course about with this satellite. So a lot of experiments can be expected in the next few years. And also we know the Tiangong space station, the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. We also met the director this time, and she said she will continue the collaboration with China Manned Space Agency. They have already selected the first batch, but with ongoing expansion of the China space station, more experiments, more countries will join the China space station. So we can expect from the manned missions to the lunar missions to the Mars missions, and also the private space, also the scientific, satellites. Next year in 2025. China and ESA will conduct has already collaborated in a satellite called SMILE satellite. It is already being assembled and on the way to Europe. That satellite was the latest collaboration between China and ESA. It will be launched in Europe, in France. And also, so we can expect this year we talked about the China-France collaboration, SWARM satellite. Very long collaboration between China and France. So in the next few years, we can expect more this kind of collaboration in the satellites. So I think can see from different levels of collaboration, from satellites to joint missions, joint trainings, and also lunar Mars missions. So we as journalists, we are quite excited to see this kind of joint missions, especially when the foreign astronauts come to China. If we have the opportunity, we are very excited to record every training and every mission about working together. We're hoping that the foreign astronaut and working together with Chinese astronaut aboard the Tiangong space station. I think we will see that day coming very soon.
It's definitely so many developments to be watching out for. Watch this space show, we say.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your experiences and insights.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great having you here. And we'll be sure to talk more about the cooperation later in the program. Over the decades, China's aerospace industry has grown from weak to strong and has achieved various achievements in space science, technology, and application. And generations of visionary scientists and engineers committed to the space industry have made their contributions to China's development and human space exploration.
Good morning.
Communication. Navigation. Weather monitoring.
Winds over the
北京景山报告。
我是北京景山，请讲。
景山报告测量船当前海况及2小时准备情况。长江3号海况4级，浪高2米，风力4级，能见度15公里。景山天路长江3号2小时准备完毕。景山报告完毕。
北京明白。
北京华山报告。
我是北京华山，请讲。
华山2小时准备完毕。华山报告完毕。
北京明白。
各号注意，收集2小时准备情况。0号
2小时准备完毕。
太原
2小时准备完毕。
渭南
2小时准备完毕。
青岛
2小时准备完毕。
酒泉
2小时准备完毕。
青山
2小时准备完毕。
双城
2小时准备完毕。
5号
2小时准备完毕。
天仓
2小时准备完毕。
北京东风报告。
我是北京东风，请讲。
东风2小时准备完毕，报告完毕。
北京明白。 各号注意，我是北京，1小时准备，东风。
东风明白。
华山。
华山明白。
江阴。
This is a series of locations that's being read out right now. It all sounds like everything's in order.
0号。明白。太原。明白。渭南。
Yeah, this is the checking of the communications in between the ground stations. That's going to be keeping tracking and data collections throughout the process. So we know that the rocket is going to fly along this trajectory. You know, underneath those are the stations that can check them from horizon to horizon. So all the way, what we call overpassing your head. So all the process, all the complete process of the launching will be monitored. So because it's human-rated launching campaign, so we need to be very careful in collecting all the data along the track of the launching.
Well, let's go to our reporters. We have Sun Ye, who's at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, and we have Zheng Yibing, who's at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. Hi, guys, once again. Sun Ye, so what's happening over there now? Tell us what you're seeing from the angle you're standing at. We can see the launch tower right behind you.
Right, hello, Zhao Yang. Hello again from 1.5 kilometers away from the launch pad. I think you can see it too. The tip of the rocket has revealed the launch hour is getting closer. We all heard that 1 hour countdown. We also heard calling out each system and asking them to report their status. Many of them have said normal, and we also, in between that hour, we talked before, we talked to experts with the launch center system, with the spaceship system, with the rocket system, and their updates also have been unanimous. Things have been going according to plan, and things are going as smoothly as it can be. Now, the Shenzhou mission, it has become quite a regular mission, twice every year, once in spring, the other time, like now, in fall or autumn. But even if it's a regular mission now, we still see people here trying to better the entire process. Now, the experts from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center say they've been trying to optimize the entire launch cycle and the test process. They've been doing so by making the whole process smarter and more automatic. They say their aim is to keep everything going perfect, but also make it more efficient. They've told us in the last few days that they have been working to make the launch towers work more, that they had a higher frequency of use, and they're also shortening the recovery time after each launch, and that really makes sense. Earlier, I think you talked about this year marks the 25th year since Shenzhou-1 launched. In 1999, the launch frequency is nowhere it is right now. In fact, the first 100 launches for this launch center was achieved in 48 years, but the next 100 launches at this launch center was achieved in just 5 years, between 2018 to 2023, and that really speaks to how fast China's space industry is developing and its need for more launches. Now, the launch center also said that this place has great terrain and weather. It says it's clear for launch 300 days out of every 365 days. So that's the room for growth with all of those launches. And as we said earlier, the launch cycles and the test processes have been optimized. That's including this one. This Shenzhou-19 mission had seen its test process shortened. And I think you're hearing it now. Another command is going to be issued as we near the launch hour. Zhao Yang.
Sonia, thank you so much. And now let's go over to Yibing. Yibing, so an hour to go, less than an hour to go. What's happening where you are? What the sort of preparations have been done there?
Well, good early morning, Zhao Yang. Well, in less than 1 hour, the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft will be launched from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Here, we're at the core, the coordinating center for this whole mission, the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. As you can see, as you can hear, well, actually, the center is going through the system check with all the ground team for this mission. And we also see the constantly heated brief command from the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. We can hear the Beijing command with all working systems, and also we can see the status of the Shenzhou-19 crew on the big screen behind me. We can see the through Chinese astronauts or the taikonauts are in the spacesuit. They are in the spacecraft. They look calm and determined for this mission. And the Beijing Aerospace Control Center oversees the whole working system. The personnel are busy working here at this early morning. So I have to lower my voice. And it coordinates all the systems for the launch during the launch sequence, and also it will establish the measurement and control during the later stage via the relay terminals and satellites. It guarantees a smooth and safe journey of the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft to the Tiangong space station. And well, this time the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft will dock with the Tiangong space station after the early stage of the flight. During the 7 previous China manned space missions from the Shenzhou-12 3 years ago to Shenzhou-18 6 months ago on this year, and we can see that all 7 missions adopt the faster rendezvous and docking mode. It took about 6.5 hours to get the Shenzhou spacecraft to the Tiangong space station. So this time for the Shenzhou-19 mission, it adopts the same mode. So after this faster rendezvous and docking, we can see the exciting moment of the space meet between the 2 Shenzhou crews in China space station. Back to you.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Yibing, and we'll check in with you again later. Well, I have to say, I don't envy Sun Ye out there in the cold in northwest China there at the Satellite Launch Center. Even the rocket, as they were saying, needs a heat shield of some sort. Can you just explain to us a little bit more about that? How does it work? Why is it needed? Is it for the astronauts? Is it for the technology, the equipment itself?
Actually speaking, our launch complex, the design is very advanced, although it made many years before. You know that, as I mentioned, the launch complex has the service tower, while the service tower have 4 rotational platforms. So just before the launch, before the countdown, maybe 2 hours before, we can form a closed envelope for the whole launch vehicle. So it has air conditioners inside, so it can keep a very comfortable temperature for the launch vehicle and for the Shenzhou spacecraft. Moreover, you know that also we have air conditioner and ventilation system inside the payload ferry. So that's the reason we can have a right temperature. Moreover, we've already discussed, actually speaking, from the view of necessity, you know that the Long March 2F rocket uses a hypergolic propulsion system, which means that its fuel and oxidizer, the propellant, work in room temperature, so that is more convenient to use. So usually under the that in Jiuquan satellite launch, we can even launch the Long March 2F in extremely cold. I can remember maybe in 20 years before we launched the Long March 2F in December or November. So that's much colder than today. So even in that extremely cold weather, we can launch Long March 2F. So that's not have any problem today.
So at least above 0 today. So then why does the 19 have this specially designed first ever heat shield?
You see that for every mission, to my understanding, you know that every time we have the very special experiments. For instance, during the previous some Tianzhou cargo ship missions, and also during our previous Shenzhou missions, we have some biological experiments. And the samples is very interesting. Must be made just maybe 1 or 2 hours before the launch, and then brought into the cabin. So this is a very good example of the special requirement to the launch vehicle and to the spacecraft itself.
And you see temperature inside the spacecraft, is that what?
Not only temperature, matters? You know that's they are living things, as Yanzu already mentioned. So, for instance, some cells to check the certain biological study, they must be made just before the launch, several hours, and today with the refrigerator on board our Tianzhou spacecraft and maybe also on our Shenzhou spacecraft, we can have a lower temperature for some samples. So this means that we have more advanced measures to have more complicated experiments. So maybe this is one of the reasons. But of course, for any sample, you may still remember that during the live coverage of CGTN on the return of the on the Chang'e 5 mission, we also have similar measures on the re-entry capsule to keep it warm.
Yeah.
So exactly. So of course, from the view of our designers and also those made this product, they always recognize this as their own kids.
Okay.
So this is the reason, I believe, part of the reason.
Almost like just testing out new gear and technology.
Even some of the Russian capsules, in outer space, they have their coatings. It's like a warm jacket out in outer space because, the extreme temperature difference between the shadow and the solar side of the vehicles can be radical, can be 200 or 300 degrees different. So heat exchange and also thermal protections are very important, especially for manned missions with biological organs on board. So I think, once you see the rocket on the pad, you see that there's ventilation and power system still going on into the launch vehicle itself. With -2 and -1 hour launching preparations, we can see a sequence of unlocking of the rocket itself. It's fully fueled, but there are some keys that needs to be removed. It's just like an airplane. You have to remove them before you fly them. So those are locks. You have to unlock the rocket before you ignite them. So these are as part of the sequence that we're doing. We can also see some umbilical cords that going into the rocket.
What will be connected through those cords?
Those are, first is the power, and second is the communications. And these are connected to the launch vehicle because the launch vehicle batteries are limited and has to be reserved. We see that the indication of a successful launch is the deployment of the solar array. So later on we're going to see that once the solar array is deployed, we have power on board, and then the launching is the success. So before that, we used the ground support system in communications, in power supplies, even in air conditions for the astronauts. So all of these are going to use the ground until the last minute.
To preserve the battery.
To preserve the battery, preserve the power on board, so that they can be used in outer space.
What Yansong has already mentioned, the transfer of the power supply is a very critical milestone for the launch sequence. You know that, as Yansong has mentioned, we use both on the launch vehicles and also on the Shenzhou spacecraft, we use the storage batteries, sometimes zinc-silver batteries, some lithium batteries to store the electricity. But you know that the capacity is limited, so we hope that we can remain more to the orbit, so it can increase the reliability and ensure the safety of the mission. So for most testing, we conducted that utilize power supply on the ground with the cables connected to the launch vehicle and the spacecraft as well. So you can see that at the moment you can still see that the 4 platforms,
only the top ones
are still closed, and now we are open another one.
The very
but
bottom
even
one,
after all these 4 platforms are opened, still we can see some very small arms connected to the launch vehicle. On these arms, we have the cables, we have the pipes connected to the launch vehicle, and they can not only provide the electricity, but they can also provide some gas, liquid to the launch vehicle. So this is a very important facility on our launch complex. And usually before the launch, before the rollout of the launch vehicle from the VAB to the launch pad, usually we will also have conducting some tests to ensure all these facilities goes well. So this is very important to ensure the successful launch. So that is the reason when I say that the launch itself is not only the business of the launch vehicle itself. The launch site system also plays a very, very important role. And moreover, to have all these data, you can ensure and or you judge the whether it is correct or not. You need the TT and C system, and you need the data handling system. So all these systems are very, very critical for the launch itself. It is also very interesting that before the launch, we must ensure that in the dropping area of the substages, in the drop area of the boosters, we must ensure it's already safe enough. do not have residents
How
inside.
accurate can that be? How accurate?
It's cannot be 100% accurate. So there is a theoretical landing point, but usually surround this landing point, we have a dropping area because we have errors and also the influence of wind.
It's all calculated on the trajectory of the spacecraft.
Maybe several hundred.
Basically at village level,
So just before, so that is the reason why it costs more money if you launch this inland. So if you launch the launch vehicle on the seashore, the dropping area will be located in the sea. It's much simpler.
But do they still need to retrieve all the parts from the ocean? Is there an obligation to do this?
They just make sure that the residents are safe. You know, a normal practice is to collect all the villagers, go to a movie.
Oh,
exactly.
Collect the people.
Yeah, but collect the people and move them to safe areas to, let them enjoy a movie, and then the drop zone is done, and they can return to their home. If there are damages, we compensate.
For that.
But there's no requirement in terms of safety or security issues to retrieve these parts that have been.
No,
jettisoned.
it's not mandatory.
It's not. Okay.
Sometimes it drops in a very remote areas. So basically, it's designed in such a way. So that's why Hainan, because the drop zones are in the ocean.
Right.
So we don't have to recover from the ocean. Yeah. But we do have, a new generations of rockets that can recover back to Earth. It's like SpaceX. They launch and they recover the engine, and so that they can quickly reuse them again. So these what we call reusable launch vehicles instead of expendable. Traditionally, we call these are expendable launch vehicles.
Right.
You launch them once and you abandon them. But new technologies are coming. Commercial companies are picking up these technologies that they want to recover the first and second stage of the launch vehicle, so that it can be reused again and cut the cost of the launching.
Would these reusable parts be more viable financially too?
Yeah.
I imagine the cost of making something like this would also be pretty big, and the retrieval.
Normally, it's calculated by the kilos per orbit. 1 kilo is roughly $10,000 for 1 kilo payloads on board.
Let's look at the screen. You can see that, as I mentioned, the platform, the rotational platform on the bottom, or the fourth one, has already opened. We can now see the 4 boosters. Each of the booster of the Long March 12 have a diameter of 2.25 meters, and each of the booster have 1 rocket engine with a thrust about 75 metric tons, with the same thrust of the engine used on the first stage. In the core stage of the first core stage, we have 4 engines, each with a thrust of 75 metric tons. So the total liftoff thrust of the launch vehicle is 600 metric tons. So that is the liftoff thrust of this launch vehicle.
We're hearing again the ground stations checking in. Seems to be a report of the conditions on the oceans.
Yes, it's the ocean-going boat that for TT&C purpose.
What the voice mentioned, the Changjiang 3号 is the name of the Yuanwang 3 space tracking ship. So it's now in the Pacific Ocean, and based on the report, there do have some tide, about 2 meters high. Yeah. So that's the tide also influence the stability of the ship. So it will influence the tracking functions of the antennas. So this is also very critical. So that is the reason why we need to have this kind of report.
So eventually, once this spaceship, once it lifts off and it starts jettisoning off all its parts, right, all will be left would be the part that's at the very top of the tower that we can see now? Like all the rest will just be...
Not even the top of the tower, because the top of the tower is going to be escape tower. And the escape tower is going to be abandoned again. So it's going to be... first is the drop of the strap-on boosters or side boosters, and then the escape tower. And then the strap-on boosters, and then the fairing, and then the first stage and the second stage.
And eventually just
the service module and the capsule. The orbital module.
Okay,
sorry.
T minus 40 minutes and counting. So in different stages, we have different checking sequences.
So what happens at 40 minutes?
Well,
T minus 40
T minus
minutes.
40 minutes, I believe that many critical trainings of the Shenzhou spacecraft and the launch vehicle has already been successfully conducted. And you can see at this moment, we are continuing. I believe that's another rotational platform is now opening. So we can see more and more of the fuselage of the Long March 12. The Long March 12, as I mentioned, is the only one human-rated launch vehicle in China. It can meet the requirement of the high requirement to the reliability and safety to carry astronauts to outer space. And this rocket is derived from the Long March 2E. Long March 2E is the first launch vehicle in China that use strap-on boosters, the side boosters. So this is, actually speaking, this is also concerned with commercial space mode. You know that in the late 1980s and in the early 1990s, China hopes to enter the international launch market, launch service market. But at that moment, we do not have a powerful enough launch vehicle. So it is very interesting that at that moment, still, we do not have the technology of the side boosters. And we just deliver the design, the proposal to our customers in US. And then they agreed. And then we get the chance to design and make this Long March 2F and conducted some flight test, and then to utilize this in the commercial market. So this is the story. Although it is conducted by a state-owned company, but it is completely commercial activity. So that's very interesting.
Well, let's hear from the researcher of this spaceship system, and our reporter Chen Yiling spoke to him.
The Shenzhou-19 is the fourth manned spacecraft for a mission to China's space station in its use and development stage. Its structure consists of 3 modules, similar to the previous Shenzhou spacecrafts.
The Shenzhou manned spacecraft is mainly composed of 3 sections, namely the orbital module, the re-entry module, and the propellant module. The orbital module is mainly the work and living area for the taikonauts after entering orbit and is equipped with sensors for rendezvous and docking with the Tiangong space station. The re-entry model can be seen as a cockpit. The propellant module is equipped with solar panels and engines, mainly to provide power.
The main upgrade of the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft is its loading capacity, which allows room for more cargo and a more spacious environment for the taikonauts.
We have optimized the orbital module product and layout of the spacecraft. Our research and development team have conducted a lot of tests and experiments in order to fully verify its transport capability.
This year also marks a momentous occasion, the 25th anniversary of the maiden flight of China's Shenzhou spacecraft, the Shenzhou-1. From that historic moment to ambitious missions of today, generations of engineers have put their hearts and unwavering belief into this journey.
What we frequently say is that manned space flights are a matter of life and death. During the entire development process, we always kept this in mind. We display our rigorous, cautious, meticulous, and practical work style to ensure that the entire work is foolproof.
The Shenzhou-19 spaceship has much lined up after taking off. The spaceship will dock with the China space station from the front port of the core module. The assembly already has the Shenzhou-18 spaceship attached. The Shenzhou-20 spacecraft is also standing by at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center for emergency rescue. Qingling, CGTN from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
So the Long March 2F rocket that's lifting the Shenzhou-19 crew is China's only manned carrier rocket. It has now been 25 years since the model's first flight. Here's Sun Ye with more.
For the Shenzhou-19 mission launch, the final leg of the journey for its spacecraft and carrier rocket combination starts from here at the iconic assembly tower here at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
The transport to the launch pad process has the rocket and spacecraft combination moving upright or alone. In China, this way of transporting upright or vertical has started with the Long March 2F rocket.
The three vertical mode refers to vertical assembly, vertical transport, and vertical launch. The Long March 2F rocket is China's first three vertical mode rocket. Subsequent rockets such as the Long March 5 and Long March 7, which are currently in service, as well as the future next generation manned rocket, all use this three vertical mode.
Ever since the rollout process, the Long March 2F rocket responsible for the Shenzhou-19 mission has stood tall and straight. Its uprightness gets further fine-tuned after propellant loading.
You can see four green column-like support arms. Through these, the rocket's verticality can be precisely controlled. Generally, it is adjusted to within 1 minute, that is, within the range of 1/60th of a degree.
25 years ago, in 1999, it was a Long March 2F rocket that sent China's first experimental spaceship, the Shenzhou-1, into space. That was the rocket's first flight. As China's only manned carrier rocket in use at the moment, it has an all-success track record, and is still improving. 孙烨 CGTN 酒泉 Gansu Province.
So earlier when I was speaking to Wu Lei, he mentioned, after having reported on so many launches and returns, that this is one of the earliest launches for a manned space mission that he's aware of. Normally, I guess they're in the evenings. So what do you think the considerations are for this particular timing at 4:30 in the morning?
There is no other choices. As already mentioned many times, that the basic requirement for a chasing vehicle like our Shenzhou spacecraft to rendezvous and dock with our Tiangong space station, the most essential requirement is that it must in the same orbital plane with the Tiangong space station. So that it is located now in the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. So the only chance for the launch is that the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center rotate along with the Earth, and when it passing through the orbital plane of our Tiangong station. So only at this moment we can conduct the launch. So every day is different. So for today, it's early in the morning. So that is the reason, the most important reason.
So there is a launch window almost every day?
Theoretically speaking, there are launch window every day. But that's based on the case that you don't care how much time you need from the launch to the rendezvous with the Tiangong space station. But as we've already discussed, today we adopted a fast rendezvous and docking. To entering the same orbit plane is one matter. But how the distance is in the same orbit is another matter. So for the fast rendezvous and docking, theoretically speaking, it do not have chance every day. So for this kind of 6-hour or even shorter fast rendezvous and docking, it is a more strict requirement to the relative position between the chasing vehicle and the target vehicle. So for this kind of requirement, usually it do not have the launch window every day. And also usually to make more of these chances, we need active orbit maneuver of our Tiangong space station to change its what we call the phase. Or with the change of its altitude, we can change the period of the whole orbit, and then with this we can change the chance to have a fast rendezvous and docking.
So put it simply, if you want to have a quick and efficient launch and quick rendezvous, now is the time. But you can choose other times, but it consumes more gas, more power, more fuel, and takes longer time and increase the safety risks, and also increase the cost and many designs and trajectories. So trajectory speaking, Professor Yang mentioned about the inclinations, the plane, the orbital plane, which is the angle that the space station is traveling in relative to the equator of the Earth. So that has to happen at this moment, because it happens today at this moment at 4:27 that these two vehicles are going to be traveling at the same plane. And then you can have a quick rendezvous and docking without too much maneuvers in orbit, which also can cause issues.
So essentially, they picked this time for being the most efficient and the
because you know that for every Shenzhou spacecraft, they only have limited propellants installed.
Right.
So that is the reason we hope that we can save more propellants during the chasing phase. So with this measure, we can save the propellant. Okay.
I think we're about to hit the countdown.
30分钟准备。
Okay, T-minus 30 minutes and counting. So this is we are more closer to the launch.
神舟19号。
So Shenzhou-19 will be launching in 30 minutes time, and looking at that full view of the launch tower there, and we've got just one more rotating platform left. Is it one or two? I can't really tell now from this angle.
I think there are two.
Two more left.
我是东风，30分钟准备，景山。
Now we can see still there are two rotational platforms
That'll be
closed.
The two in the middle that's still
two in the middle.
waiting to open. So at this 30-minute countdown, this is a pretty critical stage, and as you were explaining earlier,
and the
every
next
stage
maybe
comes
will
with
be the 20
something.
minutes or 10 minutes T-minus 10 minutes and counting.
So in terms of the astronauts themselves, I think all checks will have been completed for them, right? It's now just a technical, some technical matters to go through.
Well, one of the most important check is that to check the airtight sealing of the helmet. So you know that's the IVA spacesuit or the intravehicular spacesuit is the second measure to save their lives. The first is the pressurized module. So if anything wrong happened to the pressurized module, the re-entry capsule, if any leakage happened, the IVA spacesuit can save their lives. So before the launch, they must close their helmets, close the face mask, and check if the airtight sealing is efficient.
Are they able to conduct that check
themselves?
they will check
they
need to go
that.
For a system,
this do not need a much.
Themselves,
they will check and report to the ground. Only with this check conducted can they ensure we can go further into the next step.
So safety has been considered as a priority to the astronauts.
Yes, exactly.
At full stages, even before they board the rocket itself, and also in the capsule, we rely on the escape tower, which can lift them out of the rocket and land in a safe area. Once the escape tower is ejected, we have the capsule that can also return to Earth with a parachute.
Yeah.
So at full stage, we have the safety of the astronauts at any time that they can abort the mission, they can come back to Earth safely. So we had experiences before with the Soyuz rocket that they have already traveled about 100 kilometers above the Earth, and they had an issue with the rocket, so they had to return with the capsule itself. So they made it, but it was a rough ride.
Midway through the launch,
yes, midway through the ride. It's
returned.
It's about less than 10 minutes. Of the launch.
That's what I mentioned. The MS-10 mission, Soyuz MS-10 mission.
And this would be something that would be programmed into as a sort of a backup plan already in the launch plan.
Look, this is another rotational platform has already been opened. We can see more parts of the fuselage of the core stage. Now even we can see the China national flags on the payload fairing.
Sorry, so just remind us again, what are the dimensions of the capsule that these astronauts are sitting in?
Well, that's what we see just now is the payload fairing. The diameter of the payload fairing is 3.8 meters, the diameter.
3.8 meters.
And for the capsule, the diameter is about 3.35 meters. And also...
that's you're talking about the diameter from the outside, right? But for them,
it is the biggest one. But for the re-entry capsule, the size of the re-entry capsule, the biggest diameter is only about maybe 2.3 or 2.4 meters. So that's much smaller. So the advantage of use 3-module design with orbital module, the re-entry capsule, and the propulsion module is that the advantage you can build a very, very small re-entry capsule. So it's much easier. But you know that today the trend has already been changed. For the new generations, like our Mengzhou spacecraft, the diameter is much bigger. So it makes it possible that with a bigger diameter, the inner volume is already big enough. We do not need any orbital module. So comparing with 3-module design, with the new generation, we can adopt the 2-module design. And with the 2-module design, you know that almost all the new generation spaceship of all other space capable nations adopted this 2-module design because it has a bigger diameter, although it brings some challenge for the re-entry, but also have some advantage because with a bigger diameter you can also have a wider and more convenient inner volume, and also you can have more instruments recovered. So it is useful for the saving the money in retrieving the re-entry capsule.
The 3 meters in diameter is sort of the space between us right now sitting around here, but it looks very
small.
Much more snug, exactly, because they have so much equipment in there as well, right? It's completely cramped. I didn't see the astronauts go in with any luggage, shall we say.
It's already there.
It's already there.
In the orbital module. You can see that there are shelves everywhere, and the cargoes just put well and fixed well in the shelves. So today, you know that it is very interesting. The role of the orbital module has already a little bit changed. You know that during the years before, they do have the function that it is a habitable area for the astronaut, because you know, as I mentioned, the re-entry capsule is too small, too narrow. It is not very comfortable to stay there for days because so in the old missions we conducted several days of mission. For instance, for the Shenzhou-6 mission, the 2 astronauts, Fei Jinlong and Yan Haisheng, stayed in outer space for 5 days in this very narrow space. But today, you know that we've already adopted the faster rendezvous docking. Only we need about 6 hours. So today, the role of the orbital module has already changed. So we hope that we can have more, because it doesn't matter to stay in such a narrow space, because only a very short period, only 6 hours.
Has it ever been used as an airlock?
No, we only use it as an airlock during the Shenzhou-7 mission. But today we do not, because you know that in Shenzhou-7 mission we do not have other choices.
Because you have to go out to outer space for EVA, then you have to have an airlock. So people can depressurize and then go out and come back. So use that as an airlock in the previous missions.
Yes. But today, you know that with the faster rendezvous and docking, it's okay for the astronaut to stay in a so narrow place for this short period. So we can have more chance to install more cargoes inside the orbital module. We've already seen that.
They have modified the module. The expert mentioned that the 19 mission they have enlarged the volume so that it can put more cargoes, or maybe more apples in board.
This is very meaningful for the biological experiments. Some living things. You can put that together with the astronauts inside.
Like the fruit flies. So Mr. Xu, you were saying earlier that there would be another supply cargo ship going up there
next month.
2 weeks, right?
It's roughly mid-November.
Mid-November.
They're planning to.
And would that be the only supply ship then for the Shenzhou-19, or would be expecting another one a bit later?
The Tianzhou-8 cargo spacecraft will both support the Shenzhou-19 crew and the Shenzhou-20 crew, because you know that the interval we launch a Shenzhou spaceship is 6 months, but for the launch of the Tianzhou cargo spacecraft, the interval is 8 months. It's different. So for Tianzhou spacecraft, it will support 2 crews.
Okay, so the one going up next will be for this crew and the next.
Shenzhou-20.
Okay.
But they have plenty of things to unpack, because they have already got the service module, the orbital module fully packed with the bags, and so in the coming 2 weeks they're going to use that time to do a handover job with the Shenzhou-18, and also do a lot of unpacking and packing for the Shenzhou-18 to come back. So they have to do put the experiments results and everything into the capsule of the Shenzhou-18 return capsule, and then wait for the cargoes to come. So it's a time sequence that allow them to work in this period of time with the carefully planned schedule.
It doesn't sound like they have much downtime at all. It's get there and it's out to work straight away, isn't it?
Now look at the screen. At this moment, all the rotational platform has already been opened. So we can see the whole fuselage of the launch vehicle itself. You can see the slim body. But still, I should emphasize, at this right moment, they still have some arms connected to the launch vehicle. Usually in yellow color, you can see that. And also on these arms, there are cables and pipes connected to the launch vehicle. Still, at this moment, T-minus maybe 20 or 30 minutes counting, still we use the power supply, the electricity from the ground. So to stay, as Yansong has mentioned, to save the storage battery on board our Shenzhou spacecraft and our launch vehicle. And several minutes later, we will have a very critical step, as we already discussed, the transfer of the power supply from the ground to the vehicle itself.
Yeah, you can see the two umbilical cords.
Yes, that's what I mentioned, the arms. Look, in yellow color, connected to the launch vehicle.
Well, we have 20 minutes or so to go until launch, and let's check in again with our reporter Sun Ye, who's there at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Sun Ye.
明白。
焦阳很不容易啊，在如此临近火箭发射的时候，我们找到了一名火箭专家来告诉我们现在火箭的状态怎么样。我们这回请到了徐珊珊老师，他是中国航天科技集团的专家。那徐老师告诉我们，Please let us know about the latest situation about the rocket. 截至目前吧，
So and also till now, what kind of the work we have done.
给大家报告一下，
So let me report to you, and right now that everything goes well, and the rocket actually is functioning well. Right now, we've finished all the preparation work for the control system, and also the telemetry work actually is all in the program. So as we know, for the Long March 2F actually is famous for its safety and reliability, and also is improving itself. So this time, what kind of the modification we have? So for this time, compared to the Y18, so we have improved 23 items, and we talk about the structural system and also the techniques, and also for the sealing and also the tightness, and also actually we improved the process of launch. Previously it needed 37 days, right now it's shortened to 30 days. Although it's a save that 7 days a week time, but for the whole system it's improve our efficiency, but also we could tell that for the old system of the rocket, actually we showcase our confidence and our understanding about the whole system. And also we are very glad and also very excited, just within 20 minutes we will see Long March 2F Y19 will send Shenzhou-19 to the space.
All right, Sun Ye, thank you so much to you and your guest there. We'll check in with you again later. So lots of improvements made to every new edition of the rocket. Mr. Xu, what would you say are, do you think, some of the most impressive improvements made this round?
Well, I think the engineer has mentioned not only the launch vehicle itself has improved with 20 plus items, but also
23, right?
Yeah, but also the Shenzhou itself, which is the launch vehicle and the capsule are manufactured by different academies. The launch vehicle is manufactured by the Chinese Academy of Launch Vehicle Technology. The capsule is manufactured by Chinese Academy of Space Technology. So all of them are working together to improve the efficiency, the reliability of the launch vehicle. We know there are changes. If you put a change to, for example, software, there will be a 7% chance that you will have another hiccup with the complete system.
7% chance. Yeah, that's very exact.
Yeah. So if you put a change into the system, you have to consider all aspects. And this has been experienced by the Europeans' Ariane 5, because Ariane 5 is using the Ariane 4 launch vehicle softwares, but the software was modified in such a way that lots of unfitted software functions were remained in the Ariane 5 launch vehicle. So that had a catastrophic failure for the first launch. So when you make changes, you have to be very careful that this affects the other sides of the complete design. So they made very careful improvement. I think it's very important to increase the efficiency of the launching campaign. She said from 37 to 30 days. That means a lot of manpower saved, and lots of travels, and a lot of logistics, and lots of technical support has been saved. So I think that is a great improvement. to the launch vehicle and the whole system for a more efficient launching campaign.
Actually, Professor Yang, there's something I wanted to ask you earlier when we were talking about the IAC. So the theme this year was responsible space activities for sustainable development, right? So how does China's rocket and the Tiangong space station, how does that all fit into this?
Well, you know that during this IAC, we also have many events related to the China's manned space activities and lunar explorations. To have a sustainable future, you know that the leaders of China Aerospace, including Mr. Li Guoping and also Mr. Lin Xiqiang, although is online. Okay, T-minus 15 minutes and counting. So this is also another milestone for the launch. So the commander on the launch site system are ensuring every subsystem goes okay. Go for launch.
15 minutes to go until the Shenzhou-19 launches.
Okay, so everything needs to be checked. Okay, so just during the IAC, that the leaders from China Aerospace expressed that the China always recognize sustainability is a very important consideration of all space activities, including that the debris reduction. You know that for all China's launch vehicles, including this one, and also other launch vehicles, after we come into orbit and send our payload into orbit, we will release the remaining propellants into outer space and also discharge the battery to reduce it to the greatest extent the possibility of explosion. So that is a very reasonable measure to ensure that we reduce the
passivation.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you know that to keep the sustainability, you know that we also have already begun to coordinate with other countries, although it may be a little bit earlier, but the possible collision is this lunar space. You know that there are more, as Yan Song had mentioned, today the moon becomes another hot point of the space activities of human beings. So there are more landers, orbiters to the moon. Just during IAC, I met some private companies, including the Intuitive Machines from the United States. They provide the lunar landers commercially, and and also other. I can see in the exhibition area, I can see a lot of moon landers, either those from the universities or from the private firms or from the national teams. So today is the right moment for us to coordinate our human space activities in the cislunar space, either in orbit or on the lunar surface. So because you know that we've already found water on the lunar surface, and also potentially in the future we can utilize the helium-3 to solve the energy problem of human beings. So it is very hopeful today we have the more and more chance to adopt the commercial style, a commercial manner in our space activities to provide all kinds of services to deliver goods to the lunar surface, or provide the communications or other services. So today, the lunar exploration is not only the business of national teams, but also more and more private firms engaged.
And Mr. Xu, how important do you think that is to have the private sector get engaged in this? I mean, what's the advantages that commercial space exploration has?
Commercial sectors can provide two aspects. One is financial support to the space program. Another is technical validations to the existing technologies, or maybe new technologies, demonstrations. But they also have a risk because Professor Yang mentioned about the space debris issue. We have roughly 100,000 objects orbiting the Earth orbit with diameter more than 1 centimeter.
100,000?
100,000 is already in orbit.
And also, sounds like a lot.
We have also increasing number of commercial companies that is launching satellites to orbit with mega constellations. All three astronauts you can see on board, they have also the risk of colliding with the space debris. So one of the launching campaign has to do is to calculate the orbit, because they have modelized all the space debris, and they have to calculate very carefully the opening of the space debris so that the astronauts can travel to the station safely. And one of the prominent payload on board this mission, Shenzhou-19, is to install a space debris protection shield on board the station. This is going to involve EVA activities. Later on, we're going to see that installation. So that shield can protect in a degree of the bullet speed space debris hitting the station, damaging the station, leaking the station, or hurting the astronauts. So this is one areas that we have to be very careful. As you mentioned about the sustainability of ISS.
What would that look like? What would that spaceship look like exactly?
I think it's like a bulletproof panels outside of the fuselage.
Sort of hovering outside, with the space in between.
The final ignition time has formally released.
Yes, we've got 10 minutes to go.
4 o'clock, 27 minutes and 31 seconds.
Yes.
So that's the accurate time for the ignition. But
So we're
it's very
looking
interesting,
at almost exactly 10 minutes from now.
Yeah. That it is very interesting that the countdown to zero, the definition in China and other countries are different. In China, the zero moment means the ignition time, but in other countries, for instance, in US, the zero means the liftoff time, the liftoff moment. So it's different for several second interval. So you can always hear the voice during the launch of China when ignition in zero, and the ground team will report the real liftoff time.
So what we're seeing now, the 4:27:31, that's the ignition time.
So that's accurate.
So the launch will be a few more seconds or so following
that. So you
that.
won't see fire, after zero, for 1 or 2 seconds, and then there's a fire.
But
so a little
in
delay.
the US, you can see the fire just before zero because the ignition is several hundreds ahead of the liftoff. And at time zero, it will lift off.
Is it very precise then, the amount of time? Would they know in advance the amount of time between ignition and actual liftoff? Can that be calculated in advance?
That's very important.
It has to be very careful because the liftoff time is what we call a route parameter. That can calculate. It can be used for reference. A route reference for calculation of the orbit. So once liftoff, there is going to be announcement, the exact timing up to the milliseconds, what time the liftoff.
Exactly.
So then after we see the ignition, which was announced there, how many more seconds after that will we then see the rocket actually lift off?
Yeah.
Just 2 seconds. Okay. So it's not a big delay.
The ground team will report the real liftoff time, the real liftoff moment, accurate to milliseconds.
After the liftoff, there's a first announcement. You can hear from there's a parameters. It's going to be announced by the control. So there's going to be a series of numbers. So that number is going to be used for calculation of exact orbit in the coming future.
For instance, for this launch, there will be a voice called 起飞时刻动4时27分31秒497毫秒.
Would you like to give that to us in English?
Okay. That's an example. So that called the real liftoff time is 4 o'clock, 27 minutes and 31 seconds and several milliseconds.
So that would be phonetically similar to
yeah. So that's so every time the same style.
Yeah, but the cruise looks calm and firm, as they call it, and they're ready to experience.
They still haven't
two of them
their...
are first timers.
Yeah, they still haven't put their visor, the helmet on properly, have they?
So you can see Miss Wang Haoze sit nearest to the camera. And already we can see maybe already her face mask has already her face window has already been closed, I believe.
Wait, she's the one that's at the bottom of the screen, or the farther one? She's one at the far end, right?
To the
bottom of the screen.
Bottom of the screen. Yes, exactly. So as I mentioned, she is 03. Usually the flight engineer and all the payload experts sit in this position. And 02, as I mentioned, is Mr. Song Lingdong.
He's got the parachute button.
Yeah. To control, just not this time, just during the reentry half a year later. I hope he will also conduct a vertical landing.
But that would be impressive. It'd be something to remember for him.
For all the 3 crew members.
And especially for him being his first time up there and the first time return, if you get a vertical landing.
But horizontal, you can imagine you're being strapped by the safety belt to your seat, maybe face down.
Yes, exactly. Not very comfortable.
So if the vehicle, that there is a deviation between the center of his mass and the symmetrical axis. So because of this deviation, usually in most cases, it will lie down. So that will be much more inconvenient for the astronauts.
So we're looking at some of the conditions right now at the temperature, 3 degrees only.
It's right.
But the visibility, very low wind speed, right? 0.8 meters per second.
Which
actually, is that low? Yeah.
Actually, it is deep autumn in Jiuquan Satellite Center, much colder than the night of Beijing. We can see Miss Sun Ye, the very, very sick close.
Yes, definitely. So, 5 more minutes to go till ignition time. And what? Just talk us through what the astronauts will be experiencing during the launch before they reach orbit.
Parameters, and also maybe, as I mentioned, maybe they will already close their face masks, and also.
That's the 5 minutes countdown.
5 minutes and counting.
But the astronauts won't be able to see outside at the first stage, and then after the jettison of the escape tower and the fairing, they're going to have a little window they can see outside. Yeah, see the horizon.
The what we call the launch azimuth or the flight direction of this Long March 2F is going to the east and then a little bit to the south. So maybe at the separation of the second stage and the Shenzhou spacecraft, maybe they can already see the sunshine, maybe. And at that moment, they can have the light from the window.
And Mr. Xu, can you give us a sort of equivalent of what it would feel like to be an astronaut during this whole, after the liftoff, especially with the G-force and everything, what would it feel like to us, if we can find something?
If you can imagine you're in a car, in a sports car, and you accelerate very quickly, it's like an airplane or even faster, then you go vertically, but you're going vertically up with the acceleration, and then that would happen in the first, let's say, 10 minutes. The first 3 or 4 minutes, you get very quick acceleration, and there's what we call a max Q, the biggest time biggest stress that you can experience in the launching.
The biggest stress.
And then there's also issues what we call a pogo. Sometimes it go up and down. And
vibration.
Then vibration. It's a vertical vibration we call pogo. And then after like 10 minutes, and then there's a seize of the engine, and then you feel microgravity. You don't feel anything. It's like floating in space. So that's the whole process of launching. I think
usually the thrust of the engines is a constant value. Okay, T-minus 3 minutes and counting. But you know that the propellants become less and less. So the acceleration becomes more and more. You can feel more and more G-forces. So that is very normal. So usually the max G-forces happen during the separation of the stage. So that is the reason.
And this pogo stage you're talking about, I guess that's why they need the seat to be so snugly
you can feel
fit
that
to
all
their
the organs
comfort,
will
right?
go out.
It's like
to reduce the amount of space that you could be hitting against
it's
a chair.
Big suffering. Yes.
That Mr. Yang Liwei feels extremely uncomfortable because that the G-forces combines with the vibration together. This can never be simulated on the ground simultaneously.
So they can't really prepare for this then, you're saying? If it can't be simulated on the ground, can they
They will have trainings
for
of the G-forces, they will have the trainings of the vibration, but
not together.
They cannot be combined together.
So then only
there's room for you to improve the rocket itself and make it more smooth.
So really, only astronauts who've made the successful mission to space and back they're the only people who've actually can experience this movement, I suppose, of the launch. You can't replicate it here on Earth so far.
It's out of the Earth.
Okay, please notice it's already less than 2 minutes for the liftoff. And next, as I emphasized, some of the arm connected to the launch vehicle will be unplugged.
And so all those umbilical cords, essentially. They're looking very tense there. This is the control center in Jiuquan.
We're going to have countdown at any time.
So we also have cameras mounted on these arms to monitor the separation procedure, the unplug procedure. So today we have more measures than before to ensure the safety.
I wonder how nervous they're feeling.
Okay,
this is the 1 minute countdown now.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
That means everything has to be in green light. Nobody has to press the red button.
Don't touch anything.
Yeah. The number of systems that has to work together.
But they're so practiced at this now, you know, they're so experienced with this whole process.
All the
40
arms
seconds.
untouched.
30 seconds to go.
So the transfer of power supply also accomplished.
The rocket is on its own.
seconds.
Maybe the astronaut will salute.
Yeah, normally.
I feel the tension. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Salute. The report of the real top flight. And the tower is cleared now.
I counted as well after the ignition, about 2 seconds, yes.
So
that's it,
we've
that's a long
already
march
have
carrier
a
rocket.
successful liftoff. After about 2 minutes, we will have what Yansu mentioned, the first separation.
Right,
the jettisoning
we'll be watching
of
that in
the
a minute.
emergency escape tower.
This you see is a strap-on booster.
Yeah, exactly. So this
The
is
camera
the
from the
camera
outside.
mounted on the core stage.
Yeah.
We can see 2 of the 4 strap-on boosters. 2 of the 4 side boosters. So as I mentioned, each have 1 engine.
Looking
I
down.
think we're hearing,
Yeah.
really,
Looking backwards.
So nominal tracking.
Now we can see that on the right of the screen is the camera mounted inside the re-entry capsule, and on the left is what the camera, as Yansong the camera mounted on the core stage, looking backwards.
so at this point they're not feeling so bad. It's when the boosters come
We
off.
have
you're saying
G-forces
that's
and
when-
vibration, not very comfortable.
They're accelerating. Yes.
And it became more and more worse because with more and more acceleration, with less and less propellants.
So it will get progressively worse. Right now is not the worst part.
There's a max Q. There's maximum time.
Right.
You're in the transonic procedure.
So any minute now, I think we'll see the propellants come
The
off.
speed
right?
is
The
not
boosters.
still.
It is very interesting that maybe at this, maybe next ceremonies in Beijing, maybe on the top of this building, you can see the trajectory because it's very bright. And
We
it's
should, we
close
should get
to Beijing.
outside.
You can see the trajectory of the second stage.
Now you can pay attention to the escape tower. That's going to be ejected anytime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At about 2
It's gonna be
minutes.
a small fire on top of the rocket.
Right, looking at the very point of the rocket. Oh, there
okay.
it is. It just
Great.
went.
Jettison.
Yeah.
But still, we have rocket engines on the payload fairing. If anything wrong happen, we can still use the engines to separate the rocket.
The image on the right there that we saw was a simulation, was it? Or,
Yeah. And now this is a real
This is the-
real
yeah.
optical. Yeah.
Well, on the left of the screen is the infrared video images.
Yeah. Next stage is the separation of the strap-on booster. You're going to see 4 strap-ons are going to be
4
separate at the same
light
time.
spots.
Yeah.
Okay, it seems.
Looks like it's happening.
And this is when the
Yeah.
villagers will be
And then
glad
the
that
separation
they're
of the first
watching
stage.
a film
Yeah.
somewhere.
Okay, the first stage also separated.
有权助推器分离，
That is the announcement of the boosters having separated.
Yeah. So the rocket is on the second stage.
Yes, and the next step will be the separation of the 2 payload fairings. At that moment, maybe the astronaut can enjoy the view.
The separation of the fairing means you're out of this world now. Then you're out of the atmosphere, and you have no drag
Do
from.
not need the protection of the
Literally out of
aerodynamic
this world.
forces.
No.
Now, this is a video get by the camera mounted on the rear part of the second stage, and this is a video inside the payload fairing. We can see the folded solar panels of the Shenzhou spacecraft.
And when that is released,
You see the
separated.
there
fairing's
we go.
gone.
The bottom right screen there.
Fairing's gone. Now they can see the world.
But obviously, at this moment, the Shenzhou spacecraft is still in the shadow area of there, so the
There's
astronaut cannot
not
see
much
the light of
view.
the sun.
Yeah.
But they can already view the beautiful Earth now.
They're checking their
It should be
manual
above
again.
Shandong at this moment.
Not yet. Maybe 7 minutes later.
Yeah.
The separation point of the launch vehicle, the second stage, and the Shenzhou spacecraft will be to the east of the eastern coast of China Sea. maybe in the Yellow Sea area.
So it's all very precise where it's going at what time. You can predict.
Everything is designed.
USB 雷达跟踪正常，遥测信号正常。
So
the USB reader works normally, and also tracking.
Nominal tracking, nominal functioning. So everything goes well now.
Yeah, and the astronauts are looking pretty comfortable in there, flipping through their manuals.
Now you can see that on the second stage, we have one main engine and several vernier engines. The main engine has a thrust more than 80 tons. And the vernier engine to change the stability and also direction of the second stage. And the next step will be the shutdown of the main engine. But the full vernier engine is still working for several seconds to ensure the accuracy of the trajectory. Now you can see that's the second stage, because it is at night, it's very bright.
Yeah.
This is a camera mounted on the end of the second stage, looking backwards.
So far with the Shenzhou missions, have we ever had a daytime launch?
I
with
think
manned missions?
we do.
Manned missions?
Yes, we do.
The second stage works much longer than the first stage, although it has a shorter length, has less propellants, but because it only has one main engine, about 80 tons level, so it works much longer. Okay, Lingdong ground station has already have the data link connected to the launch vehicle. But this moment is still to the west.
Yes,
we're on
west,
track.
Yeah.
And then it will fly across the Qingdao.
USB 雷达跟踪正常，遥测信
And
号。
still have connections with Weinan Station in Shanxi province.
That's my hometown.
Yeah.
Getting a good view there.
So you can visit the ground station.
So I guess it's above Hebei at this moment.
USB 雷达
Maybe in Shandong.
跟踪正
Yeah.
常，遥测就正常，东风飞行正常。
So after Shandong, it's going to be entering the Pacific, and then the boat will take over.
Our
for the control,
space tracking ship, our Yuanwang 3 space tracking ship.
So we can really draw out the map of exactly where this
You can
rocket
see
is
the
passing
bright
right
flame
now.
of the vernier engine, and also in the middle is the main engine, very bright. So the vernier engine can have a servo unit to move its direction to change the attitude of the second stage, and also to keep it stable.
What period of time are we looking at before they reach orbit?
About more than 9 minutes,
More than 9
after
minutes.
launch.
So I think you can see that the engine is continue to accelerate the capsule so that it can reach roughly 7.8 kilometers per second speed, which is what we call cosmic speed. For not coming back to Earth, but it's circling around the Earth. That's the minimum speed that they request to go around the Earth, and also they're accelerating to the altitude of which is a little less than 400 kilometers above the Earth, which is the station altitude.
We said earlier how they chose this time so that the whole rendezvous and docking, the whole process will take less time, 6.5 hours, right? Then what's the longest that China's manned space missions have taken then for this process?
For the Shenzhou, for the Tiangong 1 and the Tiangong 2 missions, usually they took 2 days.
2 days.
Okay,
That's
the main
a big
engine of the
difference.
second stage has shut down, which means that the main acceleration procedure is already being accomplished. And the astronaut now, the G-forces is much less than before,
Right.
much more comfortable than before. And then with several seconds will be the shutdown of the 4 vernier engines. You can now still see the 4 vernier engines.
Let's check in now with Zheng Yibing, who's at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. Yibing, so everybody must be tracking the progress of the rocket there. What's the latest?
Shenzhou-19 spacecraft has been launched from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, and we saw the exciting moment of the ignition and liftoff of the flight combination of Long March 2 FCAR rocket and Shenzhou-19 manned spacecraft. And this is the 14th manned space flight mission of China, and also its mission is to send the Shenzhou-19 crew to China's Tiangong space station to take the baton from the Shenzhou-18 crew for the 6 6 months long and stay in China Space Station. And also here at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center, we saw the whole process of this launch sequence. From the see-off ceremony from the Wentiangge Pavilion to the system check at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center, and from the counting down at the Zhuquan Satellite Launch Center to the separation of the boosters and the first and second stages. And while the three taikonauts, or the Chinese astronauts, just like Mr. Yang Yuguang in the studio said, they look very comfortable. So Mr. Cai Xuzhe and Song Lingdong and Wang Haoze, they look very calm and determined. They do prepare for this mission. And while this mission, or the flight mission of the Shenzhou-19 crew, takes a fast rendezvous and docking mode, just like the previous 7 mission from the Shenzhou-12 3 years ago to the Shenzhou-18 just 6 months ago. They all took the fast rendezvous docking mode. It took about 6.5 hours to get for the spacecraft to get to the Tiangong space station. So now at the current time, we saw on the big screen is the status of the Shenzhou-19 crew, but in the moment later, we are going to see the Shenzhou-18 crew. They're waiting in the China space station and waiting for the coming of the newcomers to the station. And during the recent days, they have made a very full preparation to welcome the newcomers. And we're going to see the meet and fantastic space meet of the 2 Shenzhou crews in China's Tiangong space station. Although this is a routine launch mission after China space station entered its application and development stage, we all see the details, and we also see that is very exciting moment. Just like the crews of the Shenzhou's always said in the China space station together, China's space is always worth looking forward to. Back to you.
Yibing, thank you so much for being at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center.
Just during Yibing's description, we've already seen the successful separation between the end stage and the Shenzhou spacecraft. And now you may notice that the Shenzhou spacecraft is already in the sunshine area. You can see the beautiful curvature of the horizon of the Earth. Very beautiful.
This is the camera outside the capsule.
Yeah.
And so soon we'll be expecting the solar panels to open up, right?
Unfolded, will be extended
that's
within several minutes.
That marks the success,
Although we don't usually hear the announcement from the control center of the
with the commander of the launch site. Now you can see the camera on the propulsion module, which can monitor the unfolding procedure of the launch solar panels.
We just heard some various reports that.
And also, as I emphasized, you can see the beautiful curvature of the Earth's horizon. Okay, unfolded. Each of our solar panel wings have 4 pieces. The Shenzhou spaceship.
How many solar panel wings does this have? 2
wings. Each have 4 pieces.
And then we can see the Shenzhou-18 crew in there eagerly awaiting. So we expect the 2 crews to meet by midday Beijing time, right?
Exactly.
Meet for lunch.
The 5th
lunch date.
The 5th rendezvous of different crew in orbit.
Yes, the capsule itself has to find the sun so that the solar panel can be driven by a system called SADA to face the sun to generate maximum power to provide the capsule with electricity.
It finds that automatically?
Yeah, it has a sensor.
And the orbit maneuver to chasing the Tiangong space station will all be done automatically.
We're hearing that they're saying the panels are rotating normally.
The ground staff report, as Yan Song has mentioned, the SADA working normally. Tianlu is the name of the Tianlian data relay satellite.
We're talking about the tracking there.
Yeah. Now you can see it's already in the daytime. You can see the Earth is so bright.
Oh, I was wondering what that was actually. I wasn't sure.
It's already above the Pacific Ocean.
They find the sun.
Sunflowers.
So it's another day for them.
That's the Shenzhou-19 crew speaking to the command center. Oh wait, the other way around.
座舱大气环境及身体情
The
况。
voice of Mr. Cai Xuzhe.
Report on the health conditions.
That's the Shenzhou-19 crew speaking.
Feeling good.
长城我是北京。
That's a classic line, isn't it? We're feeling good.
Obviously, he is very calm.
北京明白。神舟19号经地面确认，座舱环境正常，可以打开面窗。
Is this the little window that there's that?
They can open their face mask.
They can. Okay.
Because this moment, the inner atmosphere inside the cabin is in a normal condition.
There, they just open it
Not
up.
hazardous to the astronauts.
What sort of temperatures is inside this capsule right
in
now?
room temperature, usually
20
very
something?
comfortable for them. Maybe 20, maybe 25 degrees.
Yeah.
But when they open up the that helmet, the visor, would they feel a change in the pressure?
No. It's adjusted to the human adapted conditions. Yeah. What we call life support system on board the capsule.
天路跟踪正常。
Okay, both the space tracking ship, Changjiang 3号, or the Yuanwang 3 tracking ship, and also the Tianlu or the Tianlian data relay satellite have normal communication link with the vehicle. So we have redundancy measures, both from the sky and from the sea.
So this view we're looking at right now on the screen. So this is a camera.
A camera mounted on the Shenzhou spaceship.
And that's that
outside
bright orb is
the bright one on the top right is the Earth.
That's
with cloud.
Really fascinating view.
Maybe it's alright, not cloud. Maybe it's because it is too bright. It's just because it's too bright.
Yeah.
That's not a view everyone gets to see.
It is over exposure of the camera.
I hope we can go there and see it.
Maybe with these privately, operated spacecrafts.
You will be the fifth batch of
As Sun Ye was saying earlier, that the frequency of these launches now, these manned missions, every half a year, it's impressive, isn't it?
Yes, to maintain the permanent presence of human beings on board the station, you have to do that in rotation every half year. Astronauts do have longer times. They stay in the station. One of the longest one, an American, spent almost 2 years in the station. But when he came back, he said, I went to a foot massage. And the foot massager said, I've never tried a foot so tender.
Wow.
Now is a video. Oh, this is a 3D animation. So you can see, although it is a 3D animation, but it is real data driven. So the status, including the status of the panels, represents the real condition.
实时轨道与遥测数据监视判断，神舟19号飞船已进入近地点高度200公里，远地点高度362公里，倾角41.5度，周期1小时30分钟的预定轨道。太阳帆板展开，飞船工况正常。 航天人员状态良好，北京突围分数及应变参数已向各方向发
Panels
出。
are open, operating well. Pretty much as expected. Everything just went.
But that apogee and perigee, it's in the elliptical orbit. It's going to be having another maneuver before it's ready for rendezvous.
It has a very small eccentricity. The perigee is 200 kilometers, and the apogee, or the highest point, is 362 kilometers.
And if you put that in lay terms for us, the apogee and the perigee, we're talking about.
It's like an elliptical orbit. It's in relative
like an
to
egg.
Earth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it has a near Earth point and it's also far Earth point. So that makes an elliptical orbit. The highest point is the station orbit.
So the commander will announce the success, and we will see the big red screen.
Yes, we'll be hearing it very soon.
Like my tie.
Officials, comrades. Based on the flight data and report from Beijing Command and Control Center, The Long March 2 Y-19 carrier rocket has sent Shenzhou-19 manned spacecraft to the preset orbit. The solar panel has been unfolded successfully and is functioning well. I now declare the launch of Shenzhou-19 mission a complete success. Thank you.
The official announcement.
北京东风报告。
我是北京东风，请讲。
发射结果宣布完毕。
北京明白。
Hidden amongst these snow-covered hills is a secretive institution. Home to a revolutionary machine that can harness physics so strange, it sounds like magic.
This is IB.